Greetings, salutations. Welcome to another episode of the Legal Podcast. Today we're talking to Steve Emerson, Florida. The man, the myth, the legend. And so he got into a lot of different topics, covered a lot of ground, started out with some of his background, went into some unique ideas on things outside the box, how to get media attention, how to get your case moving, how to get different things that he's done over the years that may be helpful, especially for some of those of us that haven't filed anything yet that might want to go help some of these big cases, track down a grand jury, for instance, bring some criminal complaints to somebody or something like that. So we talked about a lot of different ideas about things of that nature, and we got toward the end, we got into, if you wanted to start it from the ground up, what you should read, what you should do, what course you should take. Jurisdictionary from Dr. Graves. I'm going to leave the link in the description for that. As for the Telegram group, if you want to get in there and see what resources we have available, I'm not going to provide a link down below because I don't want bots in there, but it's a public channel, the Big Sib chat. If you want to get in there, the first welcome message pretty much gives you all the links to the other groups that we're linked to and how we store all of our stuff. So please get in there and check it out if you're interested. You don't want to get out there with a written complaint immediately. If you want to be involved, then contact one of these guys that are doing litigation that need some help, and go get to know your newspaper reporter or your newscaster, something like that. Just start making visits with. We talked about a bunch of those ideas and some others. Covered a lot of different ground, and I think conversation went quite well. So I'll look forward to it, and I think all of you will enjoy it as well. So one quick note about Steve: didn't have a camera attached to his computer, so we're going to represent him with a little funny picture of a cat today, but his voice comes through loud and clear, and we should be fine. So without further ado, here's Steve Emerson. Welcome to the Legal Beagle podcast, Steve. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think it's been a long-awaited treat for you to grace us with your presence.
Wow.
So what have you got on the first? I think everybody would like to hear a little bit about your background, like where'd you grow up, and then what brought you to the law, and how'd you get started down that journey? Did you have a lot of help, or did a lawyer friend help, or you just started diving in reading books? What happened?
That's an hour-long story there, probably. I just went to a private Christian elementary school, it was the late 60s, early 70s in elementary school. There was a few teachers in 4th and 6th grade that kind of went through the Constitution and the Bible, and kind of let us all believe that we're all supposed to be free people. I was like, okay, that sounds really good, But as you got a little older and started doing things, you just had things going on that didn't seem like that made any sense. That's not how free people in a free country would conduct themselves. My probably best example is as a motocrosser. So I started out with mini bikes, and as a kid, I was told I had to push my mini bike from my end of the neighborhood to the other end where there was a nice wooded area and field thing that we all rode in back in those days. They built a bank there in an apartment complex over the years, but back then it was a nice open field, some wooded area, trails and things. And that got old real fast, especially in Florida on a hot summer day, pushing your bike with your leathers and your boots and your helmet on. By the time you got there, you're already sweating miserable, So, but guys being guys, like, screw it, let's just ride them. We'll just take it easy, don't go flying through the neighborhood, which that kind of got my attention too. If you ride my bicycle as fast as I wanted down these streets, no problem. Then I got on my Honda CR80 and started putting 3-4 miles an hour, just fast enough not to fall over. All of a sudden, you had people digging with you, It really wasn't so much like neighbors, but every blue moon cop just happened to come around the corner of the neighborhood, and okay, now he's got his lights on, he's messing with us. It's like, why are you messing with us over this? So that started it. And the same thing with the driver's license thing, racing dirt bikes and a little bit of go-karting. Even the adults around me knew I could outdrive most of them, but they wouldn't let me use their cars unless they had a driver's license at 16. I held out as long as I could, but I had a girlfriend that was like, why are we riding bicycles when everyone else is, using cars? So, okay, got the driver's license. But anyhow, little things like that just kind of sticking with you in those early years. And bought a house then, figure out why we were having these problems. Why, so like I said, what was going on didn't seem like that's the way free people in a free country conduct themselves. And I just sort of started a quest to understand it. I'm kind of one of those kind of guys who like to understand why I'm going along or why I'm doing things. I just can't do it because all the other monkeys do it. I've never been that kind of person. I'm not a follower, you know. So I just sort of started things from there. Reading the Constitution, jump back in those days. And I did have a friend of mine's father who was a lawyer, and I was asking him some questions. He's like, well, you go, you know, on your online thing, go to the Florida Legislative website, download the statutes. Like, really? Okay. So that's kind of the nutshell version of how I guess it all started. I started reading the stuff, driver's license issues and the traffic ticket stuff. And yeah, 17, 18, 19, didn't have a whole lot of money. Do I buy strings for my bass guitar, or do I get the little stupid sticker for the tag on the car? Well, that's a no-brainer. Get the new strings for the guitar, right? So now I'm riding around, you know, in the rearview mirror, making sure there's no, you know, piggies behind me to screw with me because I got the outdated little sticker on my tag, you know. And I thought, well, why am I riding around in fear like this if I'm a free man, you know, all over some little stupid stuff. I'm going to be molested on the side of the road and all the horror stories, tow your cars, all this crap they'll do, you know. Like, that didn't make any sense at all. So, like I said, I just had to understand it, you know, how could this be possible in land of the free, home of the brave? And that's kind of where it all started. The more you started reading, the more it was obvious that none of this stuff seemed to have anything to do with what I was doing.
Yeah, so what did you start reading? What was your first thing to do?
Yeah, it's kind of the traffic stuff, you know, the tickets and the tag issues and the driver's license stuff. That kind of had my attention. And I had C-band satellite equipment, and the sub-audios had things like Genesis Network, Truth Radio, and stuff, this Harvest Radio. Things aren't even around anymore. But I started listening to that stuff, and that's where I found people like, you know, Randy Kelton. He would be on these little shows, John Bryant's Liberty Forum thing on Sunday evenings, and there's a few other guys, Marcel Ben Shadler, and some had that patriot mythology stuff, which luckily I had a few people around me that was like, it's all crap, you know. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, you know. You know, those people with the, you know, there's some secret account somewhere and you get all this money and things, you know. And I saw people doing that stuff and going to prison with it, you know. So it's like, well, obviously that doesn't work. Or there's exceptions for value garbage. Your phone bill is the little tab you send back as a check. You just endorse that because it extinguish the dead junk, you know.
Or you can pay it with stamps.
Yeah. And I saw people doing that stuff. I had a few friends that were listening to the stuff and doing it. And, you know, okay, great. They just did the bill. They'd send their phone bill and they endorsed the back of the thing. And then their phone's turned off, you know. It's like, obviously that isn't working, you know. So, but like I said, I just started getting access to the court rules and rules of evidence, things like that I was finding. And like I said, I had a few friends of mine had fathers that were lawyers, so I could kind of, when I was hanging out with them, sometimes they'd give me some books and things, which I didn't quite understand. But I dealt with that. And, you know, I was playing around with airplanes and other things that I like to play with. You just start reading it and figuring it out, you know, and looking up the words you don't know so you know what the hell a flight sequencer is, you know, and order flaps and slats, you know. So you just start reading. Next thing you know, you got it all figured out when you just keep at it for a while. And that's sort of the same thing with the law. You just kept reading it, got access to the law dictionaries, and start looking up these words and start a little diligent search. And luckily where I'm at here, we got a lot of law libraries. The federal courthouse is right downtown, Middle District, Florida. Of course, the courthouse, Ninth Circuit of Florida. And then there's the Kaplan's Law University, and we have Rollins College, UCF. They all have law libraries and all the terminals and things for the, you know, Westlaw, Fine Laws, and some even have Pacer, Count Street that you can get into to look up cases. And I pay attention to some of the local stuff. Turned out an old PD officer, which is an Orlando police officer, slammed some 80-year-old Korean war vet and broke his back. Morgan took the case, things like that. So I start reading, you know, the complaints and all the filings and all the things, motions and stuff. And I got that from, you know, some of my mentors, early mentors that I managed to hook up with there in the late 90s. Through a lot of them, you know, Dave Merlin for one, Bobby Loman, Rick Schramm from Right Way Law guys, Sprinkle. I used to talk to him quite a bit before he died. So, you know, those are guys I had. We're sort of heading in the right direction, I thought. And they made more sense than some of the patriot mythology people. You know, talking core rules, and that's where I come from. You follow the manuals, you know. Whether it's learn how to work a synthesizer or work on an airplane or a dirt bike or whatever you're doing, you had the manuals that told you everything you need to know. So that's kind of where it all started.
And so you were successful in some traffic court things, and you advanced from there, or?
Well, yeah, a little bit of that, code enforcement, sticking with some of the neighbors and animal control idiots and their stuff. That's sort of what got a little attention because neighbors come to you, go, hey, you're going to do this. Well, we'll check it out. Well, they give you an option to do this. Let's do it. Let's see what they say. Same thing with the traffic stuff. Here in the Florida Rules of Court for the traffic, once you challenge the tickets, you have the chance to do an affidavit of defense, they called it, So I started wheeling that stuff in there, showing how traffic code didn't appear to apply to what the activity that we were doing. We're just exercising our right of locomotion, public vehicular travel, all that kind of stuff. And, the thing that got me is you tell these judges didn't seem to understand what you were saying to them, which astonished me a little bit in the early days. But then, like I told people 1,000 times, there's a reason they don't teach a lot of people in this country. The reason they leave you completely stupid to it when if the whole ideology was to keep the American, the republic working, that'd be the only thing you'd think the schools would teach people in this country. But they make sure you don't know anything about it at all. And I believe the legal system has been dumbed down because that's what communists do. They come into a country and they destroy all the institutions that make it work. And they've done that well since World War II, I believe. You just don't have the caliber of judges. When you look at what they learn, they don't really learn the law very well at all. And when you talk to them, it's like, well, the constitutional law. They go, well, that was an elective class in college. That wasn't a mandatory class, and that just freaked me out, And that's why these lawyers are so dense, and
right.
These lawyers are judges, So that's why they don't understand what rights are. They really are pretty ignorant about it. That's what I figured out in the first, 5 or 6 years playing with these guys. They really didn't understand what the Constitution was all about. But hey, if you don't know it, then where the hell did they learn it from? That's what I've always told people. If you don't know what the taxes are, what makes you think the tax collector understands it,
Exactly.
And once again, there's disclosure. I have friends in Canada and England, and they told me they were taught the tax code in school because those are socialist countries. Everyone there does pay into the TV and the government stuff. But when you read things like the Federalist Papers, Anti-Federalist Papers, they made it clear they fought the Revolutionary War to get away from that. That's the main reason they did it. Where everyone had a low middle title, you owed no fees to anybody because you're alive and growing food and eating.
I'm pretty sure if I pulled up a list of grievances for why we had the Revolutionary War, we could check off about 99% of them.
Well, yeah, and you see now what's going on is worse than what the Founding Fathers put up with,
That's fact. That's fact.
And that's one other thing I like to tell people, too. The Founding Fathers gave us 2 ways to fix this. They gave us the courts and the Second Amendment. And that's the main reason they put the Second Amendment there. It wasn't for finding the target practice. It was to go after corrupt public officials who use their position to benefit themselves and screw the hell out of you. You're supposed to be hanging these people for this stuff. That's why I have problems with some of these, streamy guys I know. It's like, I remember I got friends that are ham guys, and so I remember in the late 80s hanging out their house and they had Bill Cooper on shortwave. You're like, wow, he's out there. Not only talk about government corruption, the aliens, things like that, which kind of made him go a little off the kook side, I thought. But still, when he talked about the issues with the government, it all made so much sense. Along came Alex Jones in about the mid-90s when he first started. He had an hour-long show that started around 1 in the afternoon. And within no time, he was doing a 3-hour thing, But I used to listen to him. And there was a bunch of other guys like him, John Stadtmillers and Anthony Hilton's, all kinds of these people had these little, talking about how bad.
What was the guy late night that always did the alien talk show? What was that guy?
Oh, Art Bell?
Yeah, Art Bell, that's right. And he just recently died, I believe, right?
Well, sometimes he had people like that, too, telling you how the government's really not doing what it's supposed to do and how they're really setting us up for a big fall. And I saw that 30 years ago, really, that the things we do are just not things that free people would do to protect their freedom. They do all these communist, socialist, Marxist things. And then you go read the Communist Manifesto and you can see they encourage us to practice all 10 planks of that, yet ignore all the 10 amendments, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. So you can see how you're being swayed to pretty much practice communism without a clue you're even doing it, which is where probably 95% of most Americans are at. They think they're free, yet they practice all 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto without a clue they're doing it. But that's what brainwashing and mind control is,
That's
right?
And they were told, well, this is American. And they said, oh, okay.
You're free as long as you got licenses and tax on your car and paying taxes, you're free. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. And then you got your public servants who are threatening your masters to fund the freedom system where they're going to do evil, horrible things. You would believe that that's what the Founding Fathers fought the Revolutionary War for?
That's right.
I say it made no sense. And I'm kind of one of those guys that, if it don't make any sense, I don't do it,
Yeah.
Being in the bodybuilding stuff in the 90s, the wife and I, unfortunately, that's half, gays and bisexuals, so they're always hitting you up. And, of course, the wife and I had long, extensive conversations, and we realized we didn't need no help in the bedroom. We do a fine job job by ourselves, you know. But still, you got messed with. Like, we were, you know, selfish and didn't want to share our bodies. Like, well, no, you know. But like I said, it made no sense to me. So we didn't need to try to find out that we didn't want to do it, you know. Same thing with drugs, you know. I don't need to be a heroin addict to realize I don't want to be one, you know. There's things I like to do that just didn't work for me. Riding dirt bikes, playing music, you know, I don't know.
I think it's called.
Up or drunk, it was hard to play, hard to ride, hard to drive. Things that I like to do, I couldn't do. I was all, you know, cranked up on drugs, and so I just never really got caught up in that culture. And wife and I are pretty much a little fitness and eat well. Remember in the early days, or in the early '90s, we went out to the surrounding areas and met with a bunch of farmers, which a couple I already sort of knew through other friends of mine there in Selwood. And, you know, making sure we get raw milk and, you know, fresh picked, fresh killed. Even a lot of the dairy farms, has dairy. They always slaughtering chickens and things, you know. So we go there and get 3 or 4 chickens freshly done and bring them home and cook them up and eat them, you know. And that's how we've been eating for over 30-some years.
Yes.
We don't really buy food out of the grocery store. Only time I go to the grocery store is for paper towels and toilet paper. So, you know.
So you're saying it's good to learn by watching others and not have to beat your head against the wall, much like the heroin addict. You can learn by watching others in that case, right?
Yes. Being in the music business in the early years, you had a lot of drunks and drug addicts, and that always bothered me. It's just these talented people who are so intelligent. Why are they cranked up on cocaine or heroin or doing this stuff or drinking themselves to death? Never made any sense to me. And I don't know, it didn't seem like there was a way to live life. So, like I say, we never got caught up in that culture, you know, trying to stay away from it.
Is there any chance that you may remember the specifics of any of those traffic cases that you had back in the day to see if we think that it's a lot harder these days, or if it might be you had fairer people back then, maybe?
Well, it was never easy. I just keep slamming them with motions and things like that, and eventually they just dump it, you know, because they're putting too much time into it. They got too many idiots sitting behind you who are just going to pay the ticket, you know. So when you give up a lot of guff for a while, 6 months, and following all these, you know, wanting not only your motions for the defensive motions you can file, then we're asking for evidentiary hearings and asking for, you know, judicial notice from the court showing how I have a duty to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, get a driver's license to do something that the Constitution clearly gives me a right to do, which is travel and move around, you know, freely, unencumbered and uninfringed, right?
That's right.
So they can never do that, and they know it, or at least they got to the point where they realized they couldn't give you what you want. So the next thing they just drop the ticket, which was always the goal, just get the ticket thrown out. That's what I've always told everyone, especially my women, you know, wife and sister-in-law, sisters, and other friends. Is don't argue with the pig. Just take the ticket, bring it back, and we'll play the game. And like I said, after 4 or 5, 6 months of just playing around with options you had in the court rules to file for particular, you know, for them to supply you the law.
Yes, sure. And so these traffic successes, you know, gave you enough knowledge of the law, and then you started looking into, I guess, property taxes or after code enforcement or something like that.
Well, and once again, none of that made any sense. If you're a free man and you own the property and you're the king of your kingdom and the law there, then how can some jerk off riding around in a pickup truck from the city come to your house and threaten you to mow your grass, or they're going to do it and then charge you 50 times what the guy down the street might charge you to do it? Or paint, or things other neighbors would have problems with. They have a little rotted wood, and that's a, you know, code send them this crap in the mail, violation, and then you go look at the charter and look at what they're talking about. And this really had nothing to do with your property at all. Nowhere was your property defined there. Just like the traffic code, nowhere does it say that every able-bodied man or woman, you know, almost sapient, born alive, has a duty to get a driver's license. The Constitution doesn't allow the legislature to do that.
Right.
But they just.
And so
many examples where they've done that. Even with the phony pandemic thing, and all it was the local news needed. It told you the DeSantis executive order said everyone had to do this stuff, but I got hold of the thing like the next day, and nowhere did it say anything about the average everyday man walking down the street. It didn't say anything about any businesses or anything having to do with all this crap.
No.
It's the news media who said that, but they know the average American doesn't bother to get the executive order and read it, though. You know.
Right, and our governor in Louisiana derived his authority for the mass mandates under the military National Guard Code. So he commanded every member of the Louisiana National Guard that they had to wear a mask in public. But the news reported it as everyone, so here we are. Yeah, everyone's got their mask on, you know, even though it's a felony in the state of Louisiana to wear a mask.
It's the same here in Florida, yeah.
Go figure.
You don't wear anything that covers your identity unless it's unless you work at Disney and you're wearing a costume or it's Halloween or something, okay, but
Right.
you're just doing it daily. And that reminds me, 'cause like the first couple of days all this went down, I was at this grocery store, sitting in line. Of course, I had no diaper on, and this black guy walked in with a ski mask on. For about 10 seconds, I thought we were getting robbed. I was looking for cover and wish I brought my gun in with me, you know? I'm like, holy crap, we're getting robbed, you know? And it took a few minutes for me to realize, oh, this guy's wearing a ski mask, I guess get past the mask thing, you know? But for about 10 seconds, it kind of freaked me out. Just kind of used to seeing people wearing that crap on their face. You know?
Yeah, and you still see a bunch of people with these masks today, just like post office workers and stuff like that here. And I'm thinking to myself, ma'am, you are committing a felony. You know, you do not have a permit to wear a mask, which they do issue permits for Mardi Gras and that type of thing to wear a mask here in Louisiana, but you have to go get a permit. And so
it's mainly for health. I mean, you're just breathing in your own
of course
bacteria things, so that's not even good for your nasal system to be wearing anything like that. I mean,
of course.
even the doctor only wears it for a few hours or so when he's doing a surgery, and the doctors I know say it's not so much them like sneezing or something during surgery, but lots of times blood will squirt up at them and things. So that's what they're wearing the mask for, to stop it from getting to them.
Right. Large droplets.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting with some of the surgeons I know. You know, as an athlete, I know a lot of orthopedic surgeons, so they, you know, it's like, why are you guys wearing the mask during surgery? Is this in case you sneeze or something? No, not really. Sometimes you're doing this and you get a little vessel and just squirts a little shoot of blood, and sometimes it hits you in the face.
Yeah.
That's why they wear the mask, you know?
I don't want that in my mouth either.
Well, yeah.
So are you under any type of like non-disclosure agreement not to talk about anything that all the cases, or you just do that as a measure for safety and blanket security?
Well, mainly because they signed one, and but I mean, I can talk about whatever I want, but most of them are, I don't know, it's funny because all these, I've asked these people over the years, hey, you mind if I share the stuff we did? And they don't want, don't they don't want me to show it to anybody. And I had a problem about, I don't know, 8 years ago, it might have been a little, maybe close to 15, I was talking with a friend of mine where he got arrested for some crap, and I filed a motion to dismiss it. It did work, and I was talking to a guy in Michigan, I believe, and so I said, well, here you go, here's a motion I wrote. Now, it has nothing to do with your code issue, but this is basically the function or the kind of the layout, I guess, of what you want to do, you know, how you want to form it up. And about 6 months later, someone had called Joe, because he had his phone number on the paperwork, address phone number, and it freaked him out. Even I was a little freaked out. I was like, that case was dismissed like 6 months ago. Why is someone from Illinois calling me about it? And I was like, I don't know, you know. And then it kind of hit me, you know, I bet you that guy gave it to Michigan, probably gave it to somebody else, he gave it to somebody else, and next thing you know, they called the phone number to ask him some questions about the case, you know, but it freaked him out big time, you know, and even I was a little weirded out about how that happened. I mean, that's like I say, when I kind of think about it, you know, I gave a motion. So that's when I started changing, when I did things like that, I kind of did like Graves and other people, Joe Lunch Bucket, or just change the names around and fudge the numbers up a little bit. Someone says, yeah, I'd like to see how you wrote the motion. Okay, well, here you go. All the legal stuff, case law is good. I just changed the names and dates and case numbers and things just to protect people who want to have their privacy protected. And you know, saying privacy, once you give it up, it's over. You know, I mean, you can't get it back. You know, so
that's fact.
So that's when I started doing things like that. And when people ask me, hey, you got a marker? So yeah, but I have to sit down and play with it. You know, change the names, dates, and things, and whatever else I think it might need to change where nobody could really, you know, find who used it, I suppose.
And so some of your biggest settlements are suits that you filed for friends, right?
Well, pretty much, yeah. Just got neighbor friends, you know, whatever. I mean, they mowed my grass back in 2005, and I sued a small claims court. That worked. They actually paid me $10,000 for that, you know. And that's when I realized you can't beat City Hall. Got other people's attention, my brother and other guys who said, you waste your time, you know. So, but once they kind of see you get it to work, that's when they come to you and go, dude, how'd you do that? You know, how'd you get that? You know, how do we do that? Just read what I read, you know. I guess all I had for them. Same thing I do musically. I like the way you play. How do I play like that? Well, you know what I listen to. That's the only answers I had for them. You know?
And what would you recommend with the experience you have now? If someone's wanted to get in this started today, what would they read first?
Well, just get access to the law, the legal encyclopedia. I'm sure you're aware of a little disc set thing that we have here.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I subscribe to Westlaw, but that's way expensive for a lot of people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that's what makes this package kind of nice, you know, and that's why we sort of do it like a drug deal, because
I'm sure not.
That's how I met Graves. I found one of his papers on one of these legal guy sites. I won't mention any names, and it had his 800 number, so I called it right away. He was on my, where'd you get stuff? Where'd you get stuff? Oh, yeah, I just, found my internet. Oh, where are you supposed to be there? So, he's such a pompous, I guess, about it, So just to shut him up, I bought the course back there in 2007 or something, 6 or 7, I guess, when I first found it or came across a book out of the lessons, I guess, and I thought it was sort of interesting. So I had 800 number, and I just called him. He answered the phone, and right away he was on my case about where I got it from. I played dumb best I could, because for months and on he kept asking me all the time. I just can't find it. But I didn't know the person it was on, so I called him right away, and then he took it all off his site,
So was that the phone call that inspired Dr. Graves to start Jurisdictionary course?
Well, he already had started it.
Okay.
That's how I came across it. I found one of the books in his Jurisdictionary course that somebody had on their website. That was back in the dial-up days. So that was a little. I guess it wasn't that. It's like 2004, 5, or 6, somewhere in there. So I said to shut him up. Pretty much, I just bought the course and the money. But he never gives. He can't give legal advice. Why am I asking for legal advice? I'm asking for information.
Right.
So he's a lawyer. So what can you say? Of course, back. I noticed though that 15 so years ago, it was a little easier to get the courts to work. But now they're a little dumber, they're a little more ignorant, and they're a little more pompous ass about what you're doing because they don't want to give up the money. They want to keep stealing from you and act like there's something wrong with you. I remember one of the settlements we were doing. I think it was either Applebee's boat or Ted's car. One of the lawyers go, "Oh, he was one of the anti-government people." It's like, no, not at all. I have no problem with government. I'm anti-corrupt government. And this is funny to look on his face and just shut him up. He doesn't come back for that at all.
Yeah, I'm just anti-corruption, not anti-government.
Yeah, I'm just anti-corrupt government. I'm not anti-government, I'm just anti-corrupt government. So that's always been my comeback when he asked me that. So you must be one of the anti-government people. Well, I don't know what that would be. I am anti-corrupt government.
Fair enough. So that mark. What year was that? It marks you and Dr. Graves talking.
Well, in 2006, 7, 8, I guess. And
Okay.
he used to travel around a little bit. A few times he's at the Orlando Library doing a little thing, and I went there once with one of his people, I guess you might say, my friend Jerry's. Caught up with him. He knows Richard Kilmerforth really well, which I do know Richard. Actually, my friend Joe used to date the woman that was listening. I don't know if he's still married to her or not, so they had a big problem going on there, It's the Peyton Place thing,
Well, and all these cases that you filed, how many went to the appeals court? Did you ever petition the Supreme Court or?
Never got that far. It usually was handled within the district federal court,
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But we had found ways of getting them to do their job. That's, if you want to understand that better, go watch The Godfather or Breaking Bad if you want to understand where I'm going with that.
Okay. Well, that's a nice segue into 12B motions. Now if I'm not mistaken, 12B motions have not always been part of the rules of federal civil rules of procedure, but they've been added in what was it, the 60s? I don't know.
I didn't really go back that far. All I know is they're there, but most of the cases we started out with, they didn't try that.
Right.
They stole the car. They had no due process, and there was no warrant, so it's really hard for them to do a 12B motion on that,
Right. And so, but like I said,
homes they stole with code enforcement liens, and there's phony tax deeds that they do, which they don't even follow the tax code to do that. And the tax code is clear they can only levy just enough property to pay the tax. And when I looked at a lot of local business cases, that's what they did. But they claim that with a business, we can only levy enough property to pay the tax. But when it's a non-commercial piece of property like your home, for over $2,000-3,000 back taxes, we just sell the whole home off. That made no sense either. Nothing allowed to do none of that stuff. They do it all the time and get away with it. That's the sad part about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're trying all the tricks in the book these days. We got
they're playing off the American people's ignorance. That's what I tell even people around here. The reason we're having problems, go look in the mirror. That's the reason we're having problems. You can blame the judges, you can blame the tax collectors and all these people all you want, but like I said, there's a reason they don't teach law. Most people don't have any understanding what property rights really are. They have no idea what title is, or they have no idea what that is. They don't understand what property ownership is. So that's why they're left to believe that these code idiots and tax morons can do all this crap to fund the freedom system. Like I said, that's where it makes no sense at all, And believe the founding fathers fought the Revolutionary War. They put the same crap in play that they fought the Revolutionary War to get away from.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how cyclical history is, yeah?
Well, it's just a lack of critical thinking skills in the average everyday man, especially Americans. They've dumbed them down so bad,
That's a fact. That's a fact. I mean, look at our food, look at our our air, our water quality. I mean, we still can't fix water supply in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi. Like, what is the problem here?
That just tells you they don't want to fix it. They truly want to poison you.
That's right. That's right. So
once again, nobody wants to go after these people and hang them for this. That's probably what bothers me the most. I mean, 100 years ago, this would have been a no-brainer. I had a friend of mine, one of my earlier legal, whatever you want to call them, mentors, I guess. He says he died about 10 years ago. He was 70-something when I sort of hooked up with him. But he was really into the Kennedy assassination and always made the point that the problem was he wanted to know where the World War II and the Korean vets were with the Warren Commission. They should have gone after them and hung every one of them for this phony sink of magic bullet crap, and believes that if those people had been hung for that crap, that Vietnam would have never happened. A lot of things probably wouldn't have happened because the American men didn't do what the men are supposed to do. All you do is read Article 1, Section A, Clause 15, 16, 17, makes it clear the militias carry out the law. The men are supposed to be handling this. We're only supposed to have police departments. Only sheriff, and he's only allowed to have so many deputies per 20,000 or whatever population thing goes, He's not supposed to have this, multi-billion-dollar police state crap going on. And that's another problem that we have. The men here in this country need to start fixing. And it's the only way you're going to fix it. You're not going to fix it through voting. You're not going to fix it throwing little streams. Like I said, I've been listening to people talk about this crap for 40 years, and it just keeps getting worse.
that's right. Well, what we do need to do, though, Steve, is we do need to get the American people on the same page. Whether, we can't, we couldn't even think about educating them about the militia or anything of that nature without first realizing there's a problem. And I think people are still starting to realize there's a problem. Like, there's a lot of people that don't even realize there's a problem, except for 6 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, they go, "Oh, what's going on?" Am I wrong about that, or?
Well, when you look through history, for instance, like the Revolutionary War, I think only 5 or 6% of the people were out actually shooting at the British. I don't think you need half the population or a quarter. I think if you just had a good dozen people in every county that understood the issues and were ready to do what the Constitution allows you to do, you can fix it.
Well, therein lies the issue. We don't have 12 people that understand the issue in every county.
Well, I do here. I got probably about
well,
30, 40, 50.
Yeah, but you've had 30 years to work on that, right?
Well, yeah. And most of those were people that were older people that were telling me things like that.
Sure.
My kids, they were like, "Dude, this is messed up," all
Sure.
that kind of stuff. And they didn't know exactly how to fix it either. But once we started kind of running the court cases to see who gives you the most guff, those people would get visits, I guess, and kind of change their minds,
Well, that's right. That's right. We've seen a lot of, when a pack of animals is running and one gets torn down by the wolves, they don't look back. They keep running. And I think that's what we've been trained to do here in America as the alphabet agencies come around and tear one down that is standing up, just raising their head a little bit above the herd. Well, let's take him out. And that's how it's been done up until now, but I don't think they can get away with that anymore. So we're now able to build on, we see a little truth show up and we're able to build a little momentum and spread that around. And now we got people paying attention. And, we might have a half of one in every county right now. But like you said, we do need 12 or more, ish. And so this is the education we must go through, because standing too tall, they'll just come get you.
Yeah, unless you find ways to deter them from trying that.
Sure. Well,
it's our code enforcement. We've sued them so many times here, they don't even come back in this part of the neighborhood anymore. You can now park your car when you want, water your grass when you like, cut it when you like. They don't say a damn thing to us. They just, even when I heard people go, "I reported them," well, did they show up? No.
What county do you live in?
Orange County.
All right.
Orlando, though. I'm in the city, so I deal with the Orlando code idiots. And we have a little faggot up there. It's been there for like 30 years, the cheat code idiot. And, we've had quite a few dealings with him.
You heard it here first, folks. Orange County, Florida's got the nicest code enforcements around.
Well, I wouldn't say nice. Now, they dig with the other neighbors and the other
Yeah.
neighborhoods and things. So, I mean, we just got to where these 3 streets here in the back, they don't come back here at all anymore.
But that's what we have to do. We have to educate our public servants. It's every time I go into a new district trying to mail my 2-cent first class stamp, sometimes the postmaster wants to send it back. Well, then we got to educate him. So we had educate the postmaster, and before long, your 2-cent first class mail just goes out like nothing, like butter.
But to get to the 12B motion thing,
Yeah, let's do it.
People have had some issues with that. The problem is,
I, for one.
nowhere in the court rules does it say that when you file a 12B, whatever 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that it stops the clock.
Correct.
The only thing it talks about is motions for more refined statements. Now, usually when you're suing just the private guy, he gets 20, 21 days to answer the complaint. So that kind of makes sense. But these lawyers will file these things, and they never ask for a hearing on them. You sit there 3 or 4 months down the road, and nothing's happened in your case just since they're stalled, which, of course, violates the preamble, the Rule 1 of the federal rules, where it talks about how it's supposed to be done for quick, inefficient, and inexpensive ways of solving the issue.
Sure.
So there's a big conflict there with that. But it's really just an underground custom. Even a couple of these peer review things. Let me see, let's get the one here that said it. One of my guys is working with this, who you guys all know.
And it also says you have to put facts on the record in order for a 12B to be successful, but I haven't seen that to be the case.
Well, there's this little peer review. I don't know where it came from, but it said to me that it starts out when a party files a motion to dismiss or any other Rule 12 motion rather than an answer. Motion to dismiss operates to stay the party's time to answer until the court resolves the motion. Further, while not addressed in the federal rules, which is not addressed there at all in the federal rules how that works, So I thought that was interesting. This article goes there. They want to push the, 12A4 or something like that, I think. And when you read that, all it says there is, unless the court sets a different time, serving a motion under this rule alters these periods as follows. A, if the court denies the motion or postpones its disposition until trial, the responsive pleading must be served within 14 days after the court's action. Or, if the court grants a motion for more defined statement, the responsive pleading must be served within 14 days. That's all it talks about in that little section,
Yep, that's right.
And like I said earlier, normally, like I say, if it's a private party, 20 days. So here's the example I use. Say you're being accused of murder. So say they've done the indictment. Now you come along with what would be an affirmative defense. Basically, that would be you don't know the person, you were never there, you don't know anything, So now if you're an attorney and you file that motion, are you going to just sit around 6 months before you ask for a hearing?
Heck no.
He's going to get a hearing so fast you won't even have time to read the motion. But usually the rules at least want 8 to 10, 12 days before you ask for a hearing. Give the other party time to look at your responsive motion, I guess, your affirmative defense motion.
Reasonable.
So, and that makes sense. So a 20-day period, you might not have a hearing until the 14th, 15th day of that 20-day period. But when you sue public servants under the rules, 8B, it makes it clear that if it's the United States officers or employees, they have up to 60 days to answer. So that makes sense. So your lawyer could file this 12B motion. You could have a hearing by the 20th day even, and if it's denied, then he's still got another 40 days where you can ask to answer the complaint.
Right.
And the rule says 60 now, and like I say, nowhere in that Rule 8 section there does it say anything about, the minute a 12B motion is filed. Now, Rule 8 doesn't apply anymore. It doesn't say that. By law, it would have to say that. It can't just be some underground little policy thing that they do, which is what they've got caught up in because no one really calls them on this.
Yeah. And so, let me just ask you: do you know any way to change the FRCP rules? Is that mainly the bar has to do that, or is there a special committee that reviews these things? How's that work? Do you know?
Well, once I hit the bar grievances and judicial cancer claims, mainly on the judge, because you've already noticed the judge. Because usually once I get the 60-day point, 62, 63 days, you do a motion for the default, or a summary judgment.
Right.
And the judge ignores that. And claims that does, it's untimely, I guess, or premature, is I think is the word they've used on a few occasions.
Yeah.
When here you are 8 months after you filed your complaint, you're no closer to getting to a jury trial, So they're really violating your right to, once again, access to the courts. That's what the judge is doing when he just sort of sits on his hands. And it's not up to the judge, though. If the attorneys are supposed to move the case. That's why people think the judge is supposed to do this. No. It's the attorney, the one who filed the motion. Like Greg says, it's up to him to move the case. And like I said, if you being charged of murder, and your attorneys filed a motion for affirmative defense of some kind, or at least something that says, hey, you don't know this guy, you weren't even there. You were, I don't know, at the Daytona 500 that day, and you got tons of witnesses and hotel, all kinds of crap to prove you weren't, say, I don't know, in Michigan somewhere, so you're not the guy,
Well, once you respond to the motion to dismiss, and 15, 20 days go by, and there's nobody scheduled, then shouldn't the judge rule on that, at least in federal court?
Well, I think you have to ask for a hearing, but once again, I don't believe it's my part to move the defense case. It's up to that lawyer. He's just using it as a delay, and that's why I filed the bar grievances on him for even the book on conduct rules makes it clear they're supposed to do these things swiftly and timely and move along. They can't just say file your 12B motion and go to Disney World and a European vacation for 6 months, and that's kind of what they tend to do, and it just sits there until somebody asks for a hearing.
See, I've never been in a federal case that they've granted a hearing. So I've asked for them all the time, and they don't grant hearings.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, everyone I know that's done it's got a hearing.
Denied.
Got a hearing, but they took his hearing for default and turned it into the lawyer's 12B motion, which that was a problem too.
Yeah.
You have to object to that right from the beginning. Don't let them go any farther forward. Make it clear to hey, we're here for my default, not their 12B motion. He never asked for a hearing on it, so why are we talking about it?
Yeah, and so we've I got this idea from you, of course, but in one of our cases, we called the judge's clerk, and we told the judge that we paid for services from this court, and this is theft of services, and within 2 days. He had moved, not what we wanted him to do, but he moved the case, And then the other possible scenario is, would you recommend just filing a summary judgment over their 12B because they provided no facts, they provided no affidavits, they never do, and so why not file for summary judgment if they're not going to put any facts on the record?
Well, that's what I basically do. Of course, you always file an objection to whatever the objections are.
Sure.
Because usually they go off. The 12B motion doesn't even touch on any of the issues in your complaint. They want to play with little technical stuff that they don't have. They are immune from this or something.
Right.
You're immune from robbing people's homes, okay? Or the wrong name. Maybe it was in your parents' name, but so whatever, you're the one suing on behalf of the parents, maybe. But that's not a showstopper. But they'll throw stuff like that in there. And then, like with the tax stuff, so it's something kind of new I noticed because we didn't have this problem over the years, at least not here. But other people in other states where they want to work that USC 281331, the federal courts can't interfere with state tax cases. Yet, I got papers here that state that even a taxpayer can file a civil rights suit. Their rights are being violated in the color of the tax code.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like I say, these people aren't very good at this stuff. They don't understand really what they're there to do. And the key is just, once again, what I learned from Graves and some of my other mentors, just set the record for an appeal. So that's why you file your objections, do what the rules say you can do, and then when they start, I'm trying to watch my language here a little bit.
Appreciate it.
When they start wanting to dig your case around a little bit, you just make the record with the, objections and maybe judicial notices, just where you've had the record up, or where you have something the appeals court can really look at. That's really the whole goal. At Graves, everyone thought that you only care what happens to the trial court, just make the record for the appeal, or most likely they'll get it either one there, or they'll remand it back to the lower court to do it pursuant to the rules,
Mm-hmm.
And usually that shuts them down, especially like criminal cases. There's a reason why they weren't able to be successful in the criminal case, because they didn't have any evidence. We kept bringing that up, but they still do a conviction thing, and so you appeal that, and as soon as the appeal courts look at it, they're like, yeah, you're right, you never presented any evidence, Even we asked for with evidentiary hearings and through discovery and bills of particulars, and they never put anything on the table to show how he was guilty of a crime because, well, he didn't have a driver's license, I guess,
Can we talk about evidentiary hearings for just a moment? We haven't filed one of these, and I'm thinking that might be the way to do it. I see that it's mostly done in state court, and I've seen it in federal criminal proceedings, but I couldn't find any case, and I didn't spend an exhaustive amount of time on this today, but I couldn't find any civil federal cases that filed evidentiary hearings. Can you talk about that a little bit? Have you done it, or you know about it?
Yeah, I'm very aware of it. It is something that's really used more in criminal than civil, but there's other ways to do it. Do the bills of particulars, you can actually ask for hearings on that, which technically turns into an evidentiary hearing. sometimes you have to be a little creative with the rules and get them to where you get them to have a hearing, which you just sort of manipulate into that process, by using that hearing. Well, so far we really haven't had to use that here. We got control of local courts a long time ago here, especially the federal guys. We had a few bad judges, a few bad DAs. That's back when DeSantis was the main prosecutor here. This is where he's kind of from. He was the main prosecutor for the Middle District Federal Court there back 15, 20 years ago.
I have an interesting question about, since you brought DeSantis up. When I first went to Florida during the COVID thing, I told you this in our pre-interview, that we had to actually pull off the interstate. They directed all interstate traffic into the rest area, and then they asked you if you were from specific states or whatever, and of course they had a CMV line that you could have gone to and just bypassed all of it. But so it was kind of a trick. But do you think it's because you guys got to the courts early enough to make Florida open, and DeSantis had to go that way, or he was trying to lock it down? What do you read between those lines there?
Well, I don't know. It's always hard to do that because we've had so many dealings with these people, and when you're all done, you kind of sit around going, "Wow, what part of that 2-hour conversation made him do what we needed him to do?" It's like, I don't know. We were hitting off with so much stuff. It's hard to say which one made him go, "Oh, okay."
Right.
But like I said, in the first 2-3 weeks, we fought about 40 suits here on the COVID crap, the way they were handling that. But we were mainly going after the businesses, Walmart, CVS, Wendy's, Subways, things like that. They were dicking with you, saying, "Oh, you can't come in and get a sandwich unless you wear a diaper on your face." Like, okay,
right.
Well, we'll see. And then they had some of the Walmarts. We actually had employees there that were basically physically stopping you from coming to the store. Well, that was illegal for them to do that. If the governors and the mayors and all want to do this, they have to put a cop there to do it. They can't have the employees impersonating law enforcement because that's what they were doing.
Right.
And then you got the manager simulating the legal process, which he's not allowed to do that either. And when I was reading like the Walmart employee manuals, it's talking about shoplifters, how they're not to say nothing to them, just tell security. Security can only watch them, and they can't, not supposed to talk to them or approach them either, or touch them in any way, shape, or form. If they get in the car, get the tag number, and tell the cops. That's all they can do. Yet they can physically stop you from coming into the store with something that nobody can see or find.
And so, were any of those? Did you file any of those in federal court against these corporations, or you just use state court? What's that?
All of them are filed in federal court.
Okay, and so you've gotten resolution on any of them, because all of our COVID cases are just they're stalling.
They settled on everyone. Even Disney World tried to do the exact same crap. A friend of mine, husband, wife, with a 2-year-old baby, and they wouldn't let them in because the baby didn't have a diaper on his face. You're not going to get a baby to wear everything, So, of course, he recorded it. That's what I told him to record it all. Get whatever video you get, but definitely get the audio. And that's what we were doing. Whether it was Walmart or whatever, just getting the video of it and suing them for simulating legal process, impersonating law enforcement, and going after mainly the corporation, and then even attaching DeSantis' executive order and making clear that it said nothing about you guys doing any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And DeSantis' office, the first couple suits it had his DeSantis' name on it, their lawyers responded with the same exact thing, saying, "Hey, executive order didn't say any of that," which I already knew that. And then after that, we put DeSantis on there, just really going after the county idiot we had, his county administrator, county mayor moron. Him and his wife are all caught up in politics. He was a sheriff here for a while too, so he's a real jerk off,
Mm-hmm.
We slammed him pretty good.
Do you think there might have been other people in the courts too that might have stopped Florida from barricading the interstate, or?
Well, I heard that was going on, but I didn't have any experience with that. No one I knew had any experience with that. So
yeah,
that's usually what I need as a victim, and take that. And see, that's even really hard to do because I'm not a lawyer, so they're not going to let me go in there and litigate the case. And I've made this comment before. I probably know 80 to 100 people have their cars, boats, and houses stolen by the county and the city. And so far, I've only got 23 or 24 that had enough brain matter to be able to read the law, understand, just like being in a band, You say, "Hey, I want to play the bass." Well, great, learn to play the bass, and then now learn the songs. And if they get that far, now we can rehearse the songs and go out and play them. But if you can't learn how to play the instrument, then you can't learn the songs, and we're dead in the water. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of that go on, where you got people going, "Yeah, I want to sue. Well, you need to do this and learn this and read this. And first 4 months, they're into it. Then as time goes on, you can see they're talking their way out of it. Well, now that boat's gone, I can park my so-and-so there, And you can tell the interest is being lost because they're just kind of getting, bored with what they have to read and what they need to learn, so they can go into the courtroom No, but the system's massively broke and corrupt. So you got to really be on top of what's going on in order to get them to do what you need them to do.
Yeah, and so what time frame were you running around all the whatever victims you drummed up? How early in the COVID thing were you in the courts? I mean, was it like the first, let's see, March 20th, let's say, was locked down? I mean, you were in court by April, or you a little longer than that?
Filing the complaints, and of course they have 60 days to answer crap,
Yeah.
And you had a few 12B motion things that went down. But they were having, like I say, we had the one judge, Fresnel, actually told the county people, you got to show what statutes you're using to have this happen, and that's when they started folding them one after another, which was just settled with the out of court, 10 grand, 13 grand. I think Disney was the big one, 23,000 they paid Jose and his wife.
Yeah,
the baby wouldn't wear a diaper,
Yeah, I wanted to get a feel for about what that was, but or what they were paying out for. But I imagine they settled pretty quick then, and no discovery and things of this nature.
Yeah, by June, July or so, most all of them were pretty folded, and a few of we did our own, dismissals things because it started going away. I mean, really, by early May, you pretty much could walk into any place without a diaper on your face. No one was saying a word to you. Some of them were offering you the diaper. Hey, here's a diaper. You want a diaper? No, thank you. And my wife's great. She's like, that messes up my hair. So I thought that was pretty.
And were you going in with causes of action, or were you asking for injunctive relief?
Well, all the above. You're going after the fruit. Yeah, definitely doing something the Constitution doesn't allow to do. Nothing allows any of this to occur. Even if there was a real pandemic and you were stepping over dead bodies all over the place, there's nothing government could do.
Correct.
Nothing allows government to use executive orders on the people. Executive orders only apply to government departments. That's all the executive orders are for. But of course, we've got all these idiot presidents like Trump and these jerk-off Bidens all instilling law through executive orders, which massively violate the crap out of all of the ideology of their existence.
Mm-hmm. And so, how do you deal with lawyers that lie on the record? Have you ever sent sanctions and got them?
Well, you mean bar grievances or things like that?
No, have you ever sent sanctions and got them?
Oh, well, yeah, you ask for them, but they just make it up in the settlement. Drop all your crap and here's some money. That's how they always do it. Just pay you off to shut you up and make you go away. So I take advantage of that. Maybe a multimillionaire suing these bastards.
For sure. Especially when you get started as early as you did, when there was a few judges left on the court that might know a few things.
Well, we had to help them judges understand what they're supposed to do. We had to help them remember,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And luckily, I got people who like to do things like that.
Right. And what is
those are like most of those are ex-vets because the Vietnam vets are the greatest. I mean, they watch their friends get their heads blown off to supposedly stop communism. And now that they're in their 70s, they see at their front door, they're ticked off.
Sure. And so...
And they know they took an oath to protect the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't believe we have any foreign enemies except for the ones these idiots conjure up for their propaganda. But we have gobs of domestic enemies, and no one's doing nothing about that.
Absolutely. It's like everyone that took an oath of the Constitution forgets the domestic part. But,
They never even read the Constitution.
Well, that's a fact. That's a fact.
12 or 13 years ago, I had a friend of mine who was on probation. I was at his house, and his probation officer showed up. So I was talking to him and asked him, "What do you think of the Constitution?" Well, yeah, okay. Well, what do you think about? I brought up the section of the Florida State Constitution. He's like, "Well, how can you take an oath to it? If you never read it before, I have to take the oath to get the job." And I have some acquaintances you run into them from time to time. You're out and about, even back in the 90s, I was doing that. I'd be with my buddies, went out to a bar, watch a buddy's friends, 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we're hungry. Okay, get the Denny's or Perkins or something. And there's about 3 or 4 cops in there. I'd walk up to them and go, "Hey, guys, my buddies and I, on our way here, we were talking about this thing. Isn't there something that says they have to, bring you to court or do something before they can, do things, take things from you, stuff like that?" And maybe one of them might go, "Due process." "Yeah, it's a due process." So I'm like, "Well, yeah. Well, where is that?" And they don't know. Right away, the guy's on his laptop, you can tell he minimizes the police report he's writing. I guess he tries to find something, and the other guy's on the phone. He's like, "Well, hold on a minute. Did you guys take an oath to it? Aren't you supposed to know this? That's why we're asking you. You're supposed to be in law enforcement. So how can you be in law enforcement if you know anything about the law? How does that work?" Government jobs, the only thing I can think of that you can pretty much lie about your qualifications and get promotions and raises. You go to Boeing and say, "Yeah, I'm certified to work on 737s and 47s," and the minute they get you in the bay and, maybe the lead mechanic goes, "Okay, okay, take this route off engine number 4. You have to go, what's this route? What's engine number 4? You're going to have problems, you know?
For sure.
That stuff you would have been trained in and know, you know? Like asking a pilot, hey, it's nice or 747. What kind of flap positions do you think we'd have for a takeoff here? Oh, probably 11, 14 degrees or 16. Okay. But if you ask him, he goes, oh, I don't know. Call the tower and ask them. I'd be a little worried. I wouldn't want to fly with that guy if he couldn't tell me a simple question like that about flying this plane, you know?
It was a
DEI. Legal professionals and ask them questions, and they don't know nothing about nothing.
It was a DEI hire.
Yeah, probably. Well, of course, this goes back a ways, you know, but it's worse now than it was back then. You can talk to some of them would know. Now you talk to all of them, and none of them seem to know anything about the documents they took oaths to. They're really not reading them, but why would they? They got everyone brainwashed to just pay the crap with no questions asked. They got people at 16 just getting the driver's license with no clue why they do it, except all the other monkeys do it. That's all they got.
Right. And so, what are some of the ways you've used these Vietnam vets to educate the judges? Solely through filing court cases, or did you have any extracurricular activities or meetings or media or?
Well, it's all extracurricular activities for them.
Sure.
Like I say, that's something I've done in the early days. I knew from the beginning, just watching some of my mentors and problems they were having, is usually when people file these cases, the only people that know what's going on is the lawyer for the county or the state or whatever, and that's it. Even the judge hasn't read nothing yet. He usually won't read the complaint or any of the motions till there's a hearing the night before or whatever. He'll probably read up a little bit to see what's going on, you know. So here you got this case going along, and no one even knows it's there except for you and this attorney or two possibly. They're dealing with the county. So I found out in the early days the thing that gets the thing going is having a lot of outside attention, and you know, been pretty lucky with that. We have an FBI local office in Maitland, and I went and talked to this guy there who was a special agent, black guy, real nice guy. Showed him what was going on with the property tax stuff, and he had a real interest in that. Some local newspaper people. We even had Nancy Grace's office calling on one of the tax cases where they robbed this guy's house, killed his pets, destroyed everything he owned, over $8,000 out of Dan court, you know, and sold property, had no ownership interest in it at all. Even the tax code's clear here that the county must obtain title of the property. But the problem there is the tax code's also clear that they can only seize just enough property to pay the taxes. So that's even more evidence it doesn't work at your property at all. What they can do is sell 10 square feet of your front yard or backyard off. There's no way to title that. A bedroom, bathroom, there's no way to title that. So that's even evidence there to show that this process really has nothing to do with your property at all. It's impossible for it to work there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that gets people's attention because no one's ever looked at the tax code. Just look at the definition of taxpayer. Nowhere does that describe the average every man just owns someplace to eat, sleep, shit, and screw at. That's not there at all. But yet Article 1, Section 2 makes clear it's a right for me to own that property, to have enjoyments and happiness and protect it and convey it and do all these things I want to do with it. It's even a right to acquire wealth. So that doesn't even make you a taxpayer. It's because you got money in the bank doesn't mean you owe anyone taxes for that. But they got everybody filling out forms telling these idiots everything you got and where it's at and who your mother is and your wife's maiden names, stuff that they have no business knowing. When you looked at the 1800s, most people lived their whole life and had zero contact with government at all.
Right.
Unless you were robbing or raping or embezzlement or larcenies or just breaking into buildings and stealing stuff, you'd never have any contact with anybody.
Right. And so I believe someone just told me recently, I haven't looked into it yet, but you may know, the inheritance tax is based on the return as well. So if you're not filing a return, then the inheritance tax isn't due either.
Well, that's only for, like, you know, if Rockefeller dies and the family inherits, yeah, that's got nothing to do with me dying and my kids and taking my home and my bank accounts or any of my cars and stuff. It's none of the government's business. None of the business you're even alive for some constitution. You have no business even knowing anything about you, what property you own, who you're married to, who your kids are. It's none of the government's business. They have no business having that. Only communists like that stuff, okay?
Right. And
they want to know who everybody is because they're scared you might want to come after them and kill them. That's why the communists want to know who everybody is, where you live, where your money's at, where your property's at, what other stuff you have, who your wife is, who your kids are. Only communists like to have that information.
That's right.
In every country, it's none of government's business. It's even in our constitutions. It's right to privacy, and that's what privacy is. It means nobody has any business knowing who you are, what you do, and what you own, how much money you have.
And it's how they broke up. It's how they broke up the family farm. It's how they, just broken everybody into, when you have 6 kids and you have, even if you have a decent amount to leave them kids, they gets divided so many times that everyone ends up, slaving away for, generational wealth has to be billionaires at this point.
Well, they got everyone practicing the Communist Manifesto, yet they practice none of the first 10 minutes of the Constitution. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, a fact, absolutely. But that's because the people don't know what they mean.
Well, that's why we explain it's the reason they don't teach the law in the schools here. They don't even have to read the Constitution. And I'm, like I said, just because I was at a private elementary school is the only reason why it was never really kind of read to me. And of course, the teacher was showing you the biblical, the Mosaic law, and the Bible out, because the founding fathers were Christians, whether you like it or not, and they drafted the Constitution pursuant to, what the world that God said we're supposed to have, freedom along the land, to be able to do the things we're supposed to do, and that's the way it worked well for about the first 150 or so years, I guess, until slowly started corrupting it. They took constitutional studies out of the school curriculums when the feds took over and put social studies in its place. Well, it's socialism, and that's pretty much where we've been for the last almost 100 years.
Yes, so you have to take over there's a board in each state that picks and chooses the curriculum that goes in the books that they're going to buy. And really, it comes down to either Texas or California, because they buy so many books, everybody else just falls in line. So take over the board in Texas, and you start putting the constitutional studies back in the textbooks. It gets taught. It's just how it goes. So that's the answer there. But that's not going to happen overnight, and your kids aren't going to be educated overnight.
Well, that's why you go for homeschooling. Frankly, they're not even supposed to be a board of education.
Sure.
They're supposed to really have that,
Exactly.
And back in the 1800s, the schoolhouses didn't have any school books. Usually they counted on the Bible to teach you how to read. Maybe somebody drafted up a couple copies of the Constitution. That's about it. It wasn't until the printing presses came in the later 1800s that got the price down to where, okay, you could actually probably put together some kind of curriculum and books where every student could have one. Before that, they just used the Bible, because most everybody had a Bible in their home, so they could go home and read it and probably bring it to school. And back in the schoolhouse days, and you had just a teacher with 4-year-olds to 12 or 13-year-olds all together in one room, and the older kids would help the younger kids out a little bit, and that seemed like it worked real well for quite some time until the feds got involved, and it's been shit ever since, right?
That's right. And so with advertising and having publicity in your court case in mind, I wanted to ask your thoughts on remonstrance, and I'll give you the definition. And we talked about it previously, but remonstrance is an earnest presentation of reasons for opposition or grievance, especially a document formally stating such points. And so what some state constitutions have the authority for you to remonstrate in front of your grievances in front of the state legislature. And we've heard some instances of this happening, and some change was made in a positive manner. Is that something that you would even consider, or think that's chasing your tail? What do you think?
Well, it wouldn't hurt to try. It's just Tallahassee's a long ways for me, so I really don't have any interest in going up there if I don't have to. We just try to work on the county idiots downtown. I mean, that's really where the problem's at. So you just tend to put all your attention into that. I think it's worked fairly well. I mean, we haven't cured it for everybody, but there's been a lot of people who, we've had success getting a lot of non-commercial property off the tax rolls, because it's illegal for it to be there. They're falsifying official government records. If they have property on the tax rolls that aren't supposed to be there, that's a falsifying official documents. So that's how we really frame up the civil rights cases and go after the tax collector and property appraisers here in the counties for having these non-commercial properties on the tax rolls. I don't know the legislature. I don't know. I don't know. I guess you could go up there and give it a go.
Well, just thinking about different ideas, because the media these days are not interested in things we're suing about, and if.
Well, I think you'll be surprised. You have to work on them. You can't just send an email to them. Luckily, where I'm at, most of the local NBC, CBS, all that stuff is right downtown. I mean, they are not too far away. So you go into the offices. You just go into the place, and you look at, like when you watch your local stuff, you have that problem solver guy. The guys are always sticking microphones. Some air conditioner guy took $5,000 from some old lady and never put the AC in. So now he's over there talking to the air conditioner guy, and of course they're blotting out his face, or
right.
Open the door and they're talking to the door. But those guys are pretty cool. And when you start showing them what the law says, what the property tax stuff is all about, what an ad valorem tax is, you'd be surprised the attention you'll get from them. And you have to kind of keep that. You see them once, give them a couple pages of some stuff, and a phone number, and you'd be surprised. You get phone calls maybe a week or two later.
So we're going to have to develop personal relationships with these reporters, basically, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah. And there's a magazine called the Orlando Weekly. It's a little free thing. I've known the guy for like 20-some years. He was friends with some friends, but he hates local government. That's all he talks about in his little rag papers. The police chief is an idiot, or the sheriff's a moron, or the mayor, you know. And he'll talk about other things too. Bring up things with some car shop that has a reputation for just doing shoddy work, things like that. He's into that stuff. So he's pretty cool about, helping us out. And he'll just make phone calls. That's what does the job, is when they got all these phone calls coming about your case, Hey, how come this guy's not answering the complaint yet? Or how's this happening when the rule says this? I mean, that gets their attention,
Sure.
You got the, blah.com guy, or whether it's just the guy for the local ABC, CBS, guy, or the FBI agent there. He'd make phone calls. We even had the FBI in Washington. They have a municipal corruption section. You find out who that guy is, send him a copy of your complaint with a cover letter, just kind of giving the basics of what the deal is, and then the complaint that's got pretty much all the issues laid out of how the tax code works, or how the charters work pursuant to the code enforcement, animal control, who it applies to, and how they're limited because the Constitution doesn't give them the authority to go beyond here,
So there's a
municipal. They'll call you. They'll ask you some questions.
There's a municipality corruption division of the FBI?
Yeah, in Washington.
How about that? Didn't know that. I did apply to the DOJ since I was being discriminated against at the courthouse, but that's not the type of discrimination that they come after, is what they told me.
Well, the key is that at that level, you got a guy who gets a complaint, and it's his job to investigate it, so he's going to make phone calls.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't know what he's calling for, he's going to call us and say, hey, we got a complaint here, say you're all robbing people's homes with phony tax deeds. What's this all about,
Yeah.
And, of course, it gets nowhere, but either way, the fact that the locals know that you're getting these phone calls, and we're at the grand jury. Luckily, the grand jury, the federal courthouse is right down the road, and so we're at the grand jury in the 23rd floor of the county courthouse where they meet, and you'll sit out there all day, up in a little nice cushy sofa thing, waiting out there. Anyone who comes in out of that room, are you grand jury? You're the foreman, is the foreman here, And the bailiff guy could not bailiff, but they always got some sheriff clown up there, with a gun and all. He kind of like eventually started asking us what we're doing. Well, the grand jury members, we have some issues here.
How do you find the grand jury?
Well, it's not easy, but you can find them. They usually meet at your local courthouse and the federal courthouse. There's certain days that they will meet where they're called in, to look over whatever the prosecutor has. And we just sit there for a week, going up there every day from, 9 in the morning till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, just sit outside, just start handing paperwork to people that are coming in and out of the door.
I love that. That is a great idea.
And the key is, they hear about that, okay? Because that bailiff tells somebody who tells somebody, next thing you know, they know that we're out there looking at grand jury, and that scares the living crap out of them, because they have no control over that. Grand jury has all kinds of, they can do subpoenas, they can have hearings on their own without any interferences or anything like that, And we had some help there. Luckily, a girl I knew her mother or something was on the grand jury for, I think, this federal or something. And so we handed her some stuff, and she gave to other ones, and we were getting phone calls from these other grand juries. So you're saying we don't know what property tax is? I'm not saying that. That's what the code says, Yeah, and that's where they get to the early settlement table. That's your old goal, to get them to come settle with you. So you got to find creative ways to get them to do this stuff, because they're not following the usual rules if you ain't figured that out by now.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And so, do you think the DAs these days are working hard to hide the grand juries a little better than that? They don't just meet at the courthouse. Maybe they'll be meeting in an economic development building or something like that. Or is there some rules that they can and can't meet?
Yeah, there's rules sets up how they have to do it, how they have to set a courtroom aside during the time that they're having their presentations, and then the grand jury can deliberate, where that's where you're not supposed to know anything, or don't have to tell you anything about what they find or how they find it, or whatever they come up
Sure.
with, But yeah, like I said, that even if you don't really get anywhere with that, just the fact they know you're there doing that is enough to scare the living crap out of them.
And you recommend just a 1 or 2 page short couple facts, and they can ask you for more questions, or you would deliver the whole complaint to them?
Well, the cover letter, I always like a cover letter for these people, because then where it just gives the basics of what's going on and what the issues are, and then see attached, which is going to be whatever your 80 or 100 some page complaint with all the attachments,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we go to Kinko's and spend $50 to get 50 copies of everything, and then start mailing them out, and then like I say, doing the beat the street, call it beating the street,
Yeah.
Where you're actually out there and you go down to the local ABC and you meet with some of those people there, some of the editors, people about what's going on with the case, and even if they're not really into it, don't make phone calls. Just call them. Just call the lawyers and ask them why they're not doing something the rule says, but they'll do it. They kind of get off on it,
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a unique little thing we haven't. I don't think anyone that I know of has tried that. But
that's what I started doing from the very beginning. Because, like I said, I saw other people having that problem where once you file the case, no one knows what's going on except for you and some jerk off attorney who's, like I say, doing all this stupid stuff by doing it can delay your case and get it dismissed instead of really looking at the issues, because that's what they're there to do. Even the attorneys take an oath to follow the law and make sure the law is being implemented properly, not sit there and protect the corrupt municipal corporation. Then I go after the bar grievances, get their malpractice insurance, and send them to Lloyd's of London, and of course, because the bar aides, the judicial oversight committees, they probably do just throw them in the trash, so I don't care about that, but I can prove that they got it. Then I can start making crap for them. Then I serve the local sheriff, not serve, but just, go see him or something. Go, hey, here's a complaint with the same cover letters, all the rest get, what's going on, what the issues are. And if he doesn't do nothing in about 20, 30 days, then I get my friends, and I'll even get the local media people. Hey, I gave it to the sheriff, give him a call and ask him why he's not investigating it. And they will. Because I even had one of the I guess he was a captain or something. He's like, yeah, I've been flooded with phone calls over this case. What's going on, I'm like, well, what do you think's going on, Like I said, that gets their attention. They don't like
Sure.
that. I think then they're told to shut it down. Do whatever it takes. Go settle with them, shut them down, shut them up,
Yeah.
And that's how we get them into the early settlement table,
And so, in all the settlements you've had, how many times did you have to make an offer to them first, or did they always come to you?
Well, yeah, they motion for mediation, which is really funny because they never do it the way the rules say they're supposed to. You're supposed to set up two rooms. We have one party, and the other. The mediator is supposed to go from room to room. So far, every time we've done this, it's just been one big room with a big table with, 10 chairs, and everybody sits at it, plaintiff people, which that's how I get in on it. Usually they want me to come with them because some people come with me. I don't want to go by myself or, whatever, okay, I'll go. And he's okay, you can bring your assistants of counsel with you, so we like to shove that in their face. Under Article 1, Section 16 of the Florida State Constitution, we have the right to assistance of counsel, and nowhere does that say it has to be a barred card-carrying shark attorney, So,
Yeah.
Like I say, that's when you start hacking this stuff out. But yeah, because they can't answer the complaint. And I think in the one case where they've had several cases. They had a couple sisters over in Palm Bay where they did the exact same thing. Came in here, looted their home, killed their pets, and they lost everything they owned down to the silverware over, $4,000 or $5,000. We got the same there where, they came through the settlement table, and they'll start out with something cheeky like $800,000, like hell, that wouldn't even replace the furniture in the house, I got case law that gets me up to $200 million, So and then you start throwing things out. I'm like, well, okay, I think we got enough of this. I think we'll just get to the jury. I think they'll be close to that $400 million thing. And next thing they're like, well, okay, let's meet tomorrow. So now they go talk to their handlers. Okay, knock it up a few more million.
So you would 5
or 6 days in a row.
You would never. I mean, they wouldn't just email you a number and say, "Hey, would you settle for this?" I mean, so they would schedule mediation, and that's how it go.
Yeah, they do all this in closed doors. They don't email because I don't like emailing. I like to stay away from that. I want everything being done in actual paper through the mail correspondence.
Sure.
So I have tangible evidence paper with their signatures on it, But that's usually how they do it. It starts out when they make an offer right off the bat, They say yay or nay, and the next day they came up a little bit more. The next day they come up a little bit more. And you got your stipulations, which you've laid out. They're never going to do this again. This will never happen again. They'll never come on the property again. And if they do, you can shoot them, things like that. And eventually they agreed to all of it, and they write you out a check. And that's nice because, see, when you sue like a corporation, say, DuPont or something, they'll want to do a structured settlement where you're just going to see $5,000 a month for the rest of your life. You can even pass it on to your kids and your wife. When you do these guys, they'll write you the $60 million or $40 million check,
Yeah, and so would this mainly be before discovery phase, or how many cases have you gone through discovery and then gotten even? Have you done any depositions? Have you ever had to do that?
it never gets that far. And for what, to me, discovery starts with your complaint. The only time you really use discovery is if they filed an answer that was off in la-la land, and you use discovery to pin them down on their answer. I don't see why you file a complaint and then do discovery. If they can't answer the complaint, then what's the need for discovery?
Well, you have to, in a 1983 case, sometimes you have to prove customs practices and
well, that's in your complaint, and it's up to them to file an answer that shows that what they're doing is constitutionally and statutorily set up properly.
Fair enough.
Can't do that.
Fair enough. But if you needed to prove that, you would have to get all their records, from previous, how many stops they made, how many times was it this, how many times was it that, and to prove that. I've seen read some case law that was required in, at least. I don't know.
Well, but usually discovery, just from public records, I just told myself, it's funny because in a few of these property tax things, we went and saw their records, and they even had a title search that they had to do, because that's something they statutorily have to do. And it showed who owned the property when they created the tax deed to it, So that's all the evidence I need of conversion.
Yeah.
It showed the guy that they stole it from owned it when they created their bullshit tax deed. And they didn't have any title interest in it whatsoever. That's what conversion is. That's an act of war.
Yeah, I guess the traffic case would be a little bit different than the property tax case, because that's something you can get from all your FOIA requests and things of this. You can be ready to go solid bulletproof before you even go into court. Whereas if you get arrested or something like that, then you're going to have to get all their records and put all that together. So I guess that's where our
general discovery. You just have general discovery in your criminal rules, and right away the prosecutor has to send you the packet of everything he's got, pictures of everything, evidence, the gun, whatever, the bloody T-shirts, whatever they got, depending on what the deal is, But when it comes to like a civil rights case like that, I've really found no need for discovery at this stage unless they try to answer the complaint, which they've never done yet. They've never ever tried to answer any of the complaints.
So I have the first case that they just answered the complaint.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. According to the court rules,
right.
There has to be a complaint, there has to be an answer.
Right.
They can't even go to trial unless they file an answer, so they have to have an answer just to get into a jury, start selecting the jury.
Yeah, and so they're doing their best to withhold discovery via a protective order. They want a protective order because they say that there's some state law that requires them not to release certain records, et cetera, or it's a felon, or it's a Class A misdemeanor or something like that. And I'm just not letting them file the protective order. Every time they come up with a reason, I'm like, you are a city. You have no patents. You have no protected stuff. This is the only thing that protective orders cover. And they're, want to say, well, it's protecting us. So that I was like, no, the statute doesn't make any exceptions for giving information to a non-law enforcement agency, which is what the plaintiff is. So what are you going to do? And so we've got him in a point now, and the judge has already threatened him with sanctions, and now they're still not answering, and they're filing another protective order despite the judge's order. And so I've put in motion to show cause, see what happens. But why he shouldn't be held in contempt?
You can do what's called an interlocutory appeal. That you can do in the middle of your case, where the next court higher up looks at the issue. So that's worked on a few occasions. Friends of mine down in South Florida who kind of had something going on similar to that.
Tell us a little bit about the interlocutory appeal.
Well, it's just something you can file with the next court up, and so if you're in district federal court, you're going to be I'd be in the 11th Circuit, which is in Atlanta. That would be the appellate court for the feds. You can do an interlocutory appeal there to say, hey, does this rule mean what it means or not?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's nice. You don't really have to give them any real facts about the case, but the rule says this. Does this mean they have to do it, or does it mean they can their discretion of whether they want to do it or not?
Right, yeah. Well,
and you're going to get a ruling from them saying, yeah, the rule means what it means, and that goes back down to the district federal court, though. Now you find they tend to go that route because now you've already set up an appealable issue that's not going to look good. If an appeal comes back to that court, they're going, hey, we told you to fix this when in the middle of the case,
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm thinking how we could use that in our U.S. Marshal's case to file an interlocutory appeal on something.
I used it in the state case once. Had a friend of mine who got arrested for some crap with his ex-wife thing, and the cops arrested for some goofy stuff. And it was really cool because it was a misdemeanor, and here in Florida they got 90 days to bring you to trial. And they didn't even arraign until the 85th day. So come the 92nd day, we filed our notice of expiration of speedy trial. And that says there right away, as soon as you file that, they have 10 days to have a hearing on it, where the prosecutor has to stand up and show how it's not his fault, that it's the defendant's fault. Your lawyer did something, or you were okay with an extension, or you asked for a delay or some kind, or and if they don't come up with that, then they have 5 days to start trial. So we went through the routine, but the court just ignored it, claimed that they had the hearing the day he filed it, but the rule said you had to do it in 5 days, so you can't do it the day I filed it. But that's when I did an interlocutory appeal, and once again, does this rule mean what it says? Do they have to do this in 10 days, do this in 5 days? And the court came back and said, yeah. And that's all. Even had on case law out of their own appellate district here, the 4th district of appeals we have here, saying, yeah, that's what the rule means, and if you don't do it in that time period, then you have to dismiss the case. So that's how we got the case dismissed. But the judge, they're ready to start a trial and go and do the do, So, I mean, this just shows you how dumb the judges are. They don't really understand what they're doing. They don't understand the rules, and I don't believe they're really taught and trained how to work the rules and how the rules are set up to work, So that's why they just kind of do whatever their other judges do. That's kind of how they play that game down there. What's the other judge do? What's the chief judge say? Screw him. Read the goddamn rules.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. Just read the book,
Yeah. Well, it's with these DOJ conferences so the DOJ several times a year holds conferences for all the judges, and the judges go and teach people how to, for instance, throw out tax suits in their court, things of that nature. So we have the DOJ training the judiciary on how to get rid of problems for them.
I call that sedition up the ass, that's hanging crime stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's an American Activities Act from the 50s, the McCarthy Act. All those neat things come into play, then you want to go sue them for that, because nothing allows them to tamper with the system at all, which they do it all the time. Even if the judge gives jury instructions, I go after him for jury tampering. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. And now, so let's switch gears. Let's talk about the bar a little bit. From what I'm understanding is that the court actually sets up a judicial review board, right? Is that normally how it works?
That's what they call it here.
And so if the court has created this judicial review board and it's allocating, it's charging fees for the members of the bar, isn't it taxing and legislating?
I don't know. I'd have to really get into that research a little bit. I really don't pay any attention to the bar thing. I don't really care what club they're in,
Well, if we could get rid of it, that would be huge.
Well, I don't know if you need to get rid of it. You just need to get it working pursuant to what it was there to do. It was just to make sure the attorneys are following the law and it's judicial conduct stuff, and making sure the attorneys are doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, agreed,
that's
but
what I was telling the guy the other day. He was talking about the Constitution. It's like to be written. No, you just got to get them to follow what's written, and then we'll be fine. That's all you got to do. You don't have to rewrite nothing. Just get them following what they're doing. It's like, we need a revolution. No, we need a restoration. We don't need a revolution. The revolution is what the communists are doing. They're trying to turn us into a communist country. We want to restore it back to a constitutional republic.
That's an important distinction for sure. And so that's the thing, though. I mean, how many bar grievances have you written, and how much difference has it made?
Well, not a whole lot in the case, but it definitely screws with the attorney, because I noticed they're no longer practicing after about 6 months. Got dozens of judges I know of that once you hit them up with these judicial candidates complaints, and like I said, I sent them to Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's of London usually owns most of the insurance companies that set up these their hazard insurance, or whatever you want to call it, and they have a problem with that, because they know they're going to get sued, they're going to have to pay out, so they raise this malpractice insurance, and the chief judge looks at it and goes, see, I'm paying $25,000 for each month. I'm just making up numbers. I'm not sure what the numbers are.
Yeah.
Now this guy, I got to pay $75,000, so they're going to dump him and get someone else in there for the $25,000. So he's no longer a judge no more.
And so you're using Lloyd's of London as your catch-all. It basically
Well,
filters.
Send them to the Judicial Oversight Committee or the bar or whatever. I agree with some of my mentors. They just throw them in the trash. They don't pay attention to them. Okay, that's fine. But the insurance companies, they're the ones who care. They're the ones who are going to say something about it, or they're just going, oh, well, we're getting grievances on you. You're not doing things right. So just like an automobile. If you have a perfect record, okay, fine. Maybe at a Walmart one day someone hits your car. The insurance is going to fix it, but they're going to double your rates then, even though it wasn't your fault. Because they thought, well, you parked your car in a bad spot. It comes all kinds of reasons. And then you might get hit again in the exact same scenario at the Home Depot. The insurance is going to fix your car, but then they're going to dump you. They're going to say, "Well, we're not going to insure you no more."
You know, those insurance people, they love to keep records. So they might just file that in his file when you send that to him.
Yeah, they keep the stuff because it's come up in the past, So once you get a reputation of doing that, you get control of the courts a little bit. They kind of a little weird about you because they don't want to lose it. They like their little cushy $180,000 a year job.
Sure.
They don't want to lose it.
And so well, I've never seen a bar grievance really do anything to anybody, but we had an attorney out of New Mexico, and he's defending a case for the Choctaws in Mississippi, and he's far away. But we sent a bar grievance in on him for lying to the court, and he spent 28 pages defending that to the bar, and then submitted it to the court. So it clearly did something to the man. He certainly, maybe they take it serious in New Mexico. I don't know, but they certainly don't where I'm from.
Well, yeah, that kind of goes back to where I was talking about the sheriff and the local DA. I kind of just lay a copy of the complaint that was filed in federal court about what the idiots are doing. It's sure their job to investigate this, and if they're truly abusing the process and acting under color to collect money they have no authority to collect, that's theft.
Yeah.
So how come they're not doing nothing about it? When they don't do that, I file criminal complaints on them for failure to prosecute or failure to investigate, and what is it, title USC 4, I think. I can't remember what it says, what exactly it says there. They're aiding and abetting, before and after the fact,
Yeah.
So now you got the sheriff now and this DA guy here who's got these complaints being filed on him. It's like the tar baby. Everybody sticks to it, and they're not doing their job. They're supposed to investigate it. If the property appraiser and tax collector are falsifying their records and using that to arm off and steal people's homes and loot their stuff and kill their pets and then cripple some of them because they try to defend their property according to the Constitution, where it says you have the right to protect your property from anybody.
And so
there's no stipulations there saying, no, not if it's pigs with some bullshit writ of possession or phony tax deed. No, you can't protect from that, So, I mean, that's what makes some of these cases go so well, that they're prosecuting this guy for protecting his property, and he's still the legal owner of the property,
Yeah, and so you're saying basically write criminal complaints and you hand it to the sheriff, who has a duty to investigate. The FBI even has a duty to investigate if they're serious enough crimes, and then you could probably just copy those criminal complaints, and that's what you hand out to the grand jury, yes or no?
Well, if you get that far, I guess. Usually in the early days, we're starting with just the grand jury just to get their attention on how they're misusing the property tax code or their charters with code enforcement stuff. Then I have a corrento that I sent to the governor for him to sign to have their charters revoked for noncompliance with the Constitution.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just thinking along the traffic lines, the traffic ticket stuff, or abuse in the traffic arena. If you're looking for the grand jury to file a criminal complaint against the cop, obviously the DA is probably not going to do anything about it. But if you could get it to the grand jury, that'd be a whole different story, right?
Well, I don't know about the traffic stuff. To me, that's where Eddie Craig and I years ago had little differences. To me, that's chump change.
Like if the cop beat you up or something, or the cop has targeted you.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, if it gets to that far where they did stupid stuff like that.
Right. Where they commit like real crimes, in the put you in jail for 2 days or something, and falsely.
They towed your car off. They're not allowed to do that.
Right.
The only thing in the statute's allowed to do that is if the car is like an accident. So the busted car's in the middle of the intersection. Yeah, they can have it towed off, but they'll pull you over in the 7-Eleven parking lot and then arrest you for whatever crap because your papers aren't in order. Which that's lovely freedom thing. And then have some tow assholes come and take your car, where it's cost you $500 to get it back, and every day it stays there, it's $50 more.
That's right.
They have no business doing that, so I got there for grand theft auto, which is a third-degree felony here in Florida. So,
then they convert the title, which is they conversion to be able to they salvage it or whatever they have to do to get a new title to sell it again, because you're really the owner.
If the tow company gets that far, like I say, if you get the car back in a few days, that won't happen. According to the statutes, if it's there for more than 60 days, then they can do a thing to get a title that they can sell the car off as abandoned. But usually they can't do that in the first couple of days, which we caught them doing that. One of the cars they did steal within 5 days, they found the owner, because the guy never registered the car. He had it for 10 years. He was just putting his crazy tags on it, And that's why the code assholes came to his house and took the car right out of the damn garage with no warrants, no due process, no nothing. And the tow company within days, and literally the guy he bought the car from 10 years ago to sign some paper to allow them to do what they want to do with the car. So we had a $40 million tow company this close to having their damn business license revoked for, stolen vehicles, enterprising thing, and RICO stuff. So that was a great settlement there too.
I bet.
$80,000 for an $800 K car.
So in my first case, the city of Central, they towed it was a motorcycle, and ended up I let them keep it and sell it is what I did. I thought it would be better for me, and so it gets to they don't even have this tow truck company does not answer the complaint at all. The clerk signs a default, signs the default judgment, sends it to me. So I ask for, writ of scary offices, whatever, however that said. And judge denies it. And then eventually got rid of everything. Went up to the Fifth Circuit. They didn't care either. Just, you know what? No, it was time barred, so we're going to excuse the people that didn't even answer either. What? They didn't even respond to the summons from this federal court. You've given the power of the court away.
Well, yeah, it's corrupt. There's no doubt. But mainly out of ignorance and stupidity, though. It's not. I can't prove they sit there like, say quarter till 8 before they open the doors and go, okay, we're supposed to protect rights and do this. Screw it. Get the money, Unless you can prove they're doing that, it's real hard to, in these cases, you usually don't even have to prove conspiracy. Just the fact they're doing it is all you need,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing allows them to take jack shit from the people, period.
Right.
Of course, they do it all the time. Get away with it. And I say that there's a reason why they don't teach law. They don't want the average guy to know how to file any briefs, do any legal research, or file any petitions or do any of that stuff. They want you completely dumb as dirt to that, and the people who've done a good job of staying willfully ignorant to that.
Yeah, and the bar is complicit in that because they want you to pay the lawyer to adjudicate these things, and then they want to not tell the client all the details so they can soak up billable hours, and then, it works across the board.
Well, there's no doubt it's a racket, and it's been corrupted into that. I remember watching, I guess it was, what was that movie with Gregory Peck? To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's back in the 30s or maybe 40s, but he had no money, and most of his clients came and brought him eggs and things because that's how they paid him for his services, But it's funny because the little girl goes, are we like poor? Well, I don't know, not morally, but back then there was no real money in being a lawyer, but now they've turned it into where that's how they do it. They corrupt by just paying people off, just like they did with the COVID crap. They paid all the governors, paid all these corporations to go along with all this crap. I have a paper here that showed how the NBA and even NASCAR got 200 and something million. That's why they're able to have races with no fans in the stands. Normally the promoters never gone along with that. They couldn't. They'd go bankrupt if they did that. But the government paid them off to do it.
That's right. And do you know how much the Mississippi band of Choctaw Indians got? $1 billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion.
That's what Trumpy Poo did, was paid everybody off and not allowed to do any of it anyhow. That's why most problems we're having now is because of what Trump did. People don't get that either. They think Trump is some savior. Man, he was a New York Democrat and just became Republican to run for president. And people fall for that crap. But we're not going to fix it in Washington. It's all local. That's all you need to do is concentrate on the local. If you get your local idiots scared to death to go along with any of this crap, then you got it made.
That's right. I agree with you. But sometimes that's a big undertaking in a city of as a Baton Rouge or New Orleans, known for corruption.
There's a few key people you need to put the pressure on in some way or manner. Then you get that going for you, then you got it made.
That's it. I agree with you. Then they're scared.
They're easy to get to. They pump their own gas, they get their own coffee. It's not like the Washington assholes who got 6 Secret Service morons with P5 machine guns under their coats. These guys do their own thing by themselves. On the way to work, they go and 7-Eleven get their coffee, so it's not hard to find times to.
That's right.
You might say.
They have council meetings, and you can talk at them. So that's.
I don't even like their council meetings because they'll have you thrown out and have some jerky pigs there throwing you out of there.
Well, of course.
You're better off if you kind of find these guys out on the roads, and that's not hard to do if you know how to do that. You watch 100 movies out and survey somebody and see when they go, when they walk the dog, when they go to the gym, when they go to work, where they park. You can get all that kind of information over a few weeks' time if you just put a little time into it and find your opportunities to have meetings with them.
At this point,
your way.
At this point, I'm going to say this is for entertainment purposes only.
Well, that's why I tell people to go watch The Godfather, Breaking Bad or something. Look at how these people got their little thing going, and if you think that you're going to do it any other way, well, then you're an idiot. All you do is look through history. The only way these problems were ever fixed was the hanging or throat slits or firing squads. That's how it's always been settled before. I don't think there's any other way to settle. You're not going to vote your way out of it, fly your way out of it, or even buy your way out of it.
Yeah.
These criminals want you dead. They want to destroy society.
That's becoming a little more. That's becoming more and more evident as the days go on at this point.
Well, I noticed it from like I said at the beginning. I had friends out of high school that really couldn't read worth a damn, so I knew then something was wrong.
Yeah.
This is only in the late 70s, early 80s, I guess, when you kind of went, wow, how come old Jim can't read? He went to the same school as I went to. But luckily you helped him out a little bit, You guys sit with him and sort of helped him out a little bit,
Yeah.
I don't know, I always liked reading. Of course, being a racer, I had my motocross magazines and anything I get my hands on about racing, I would like to read. And so that's where I guess my reading skills kind of came around. But when I started reading the law, I did notice that, there's a different level to it because these laws were written back in maybe late, mid-1800s, early 1900s, and by people who were very educated in the English language. People say, oh, it's legalese. Well, it's not legalese. You've just been dumbed down. That's all. If you had the right education, you'd understand this stuff. But you've been taught a way not to understand it because they don't want you understanding it.
Well, the definition of person is a little bit of legalese. But anyway.
Well, not really. I mean, once you read the preamble, the statutes, it makes it clear the person is the term that they're using to describe a corporation or, whatever the way it might be, And it even makes it clear that these words can be interchangeable. Corporation, person can be interchangeable. So once you understand that, then the rest is a breeze. Well,
yeah, okay. There's, the little statutory construction rules and stuff. That does get a little deep sometimes.
That's where things like the legal encyclopedias, American jurisprudence, corpus juris secundum, start reading that stuff. A lot of states have statutory construction manuals, and the legislated idiots or anyone that works in government is supposed to be reading so they know how to formulate their laws and ordinances and how they have to set them up. So you start reading that stuff, and it's pretty clear what they're able to do, what they're supposed to do, which they don't do, and nobody goes after them for it because nobody else is reading it. That's what I've always said from the beginning. We have a wonderful system of law. You couldn't ask for any better system of law in the whole world as here in America. Problem is nobody's reading it. No one's forcing the system to follow it. It's like sitting at a poker table and no one knows the difference between a straight and a flush, okay? You're going to have problems, right?
Right. But we purposely made it so voluminous that it's inhibitive for, the people that we're raising here.
Yeah, like I said, I think they just dumped everybody down to it, that's all.
Right.
If the system was there to make sure that everyone was very fluent in the English language, then I don't think you'd have near the problem with it,
That's
but
fact.
they've done a good job of making sure that you only know the big 500 words. They even admit just enough to where you can work at a 7-Eleven and read the drop forms and stuff. That's all they want you to know. I think it was Ford said, I don't need smart people, I need good workers,
That's
so
right.
You see how they sort of set the education system up to make sure that the average guy that gets out of a high school education with his diploma is really not up to par. You have to go to college if you want the next step up, which, I don't know why that. Yeah, I'll try. Okay, well, I'll call you in a few days. Okay, yeah, call me in a few days, So that goes on for a week or two, but eventually, if you keep at them, they'll take a look at it,
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with the local people. You have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Every state has its state, like Texas has the Texas Rangers, things like that. So you send to these guys, and they have a local office. They usually have local offices in every little district or whatever they set up, Find out where those are and go in there and start talking to these guys, showing them what these idiots downtown are doing, and nothing allows them to do it, and it's your job to, take an interest in this. And if you don't, then, well, I start raising hell with them, criminal complaints, and even maybe a suit in state court possibly for their dereliction of duty, failure to do what the law says they're there for, what they were enacted for. If there's even a constitutional agency, most of them aren't even constitutional agencies,
Right. That's a fact.
But they're supposed to be doing these things. That's why they were put there and funded, was to make sure the laws were being implemented properly. So then you start putting a bunch of heat on them if they're not doing their job. Like they say, make a federal case out of it,
They don't joke about that. There's
no, and that's a lot. I mean, I probably put more work than that than you do writing the complaint.
That's right.
Making sure you got this local thing going on here. You get, like I said, they're getting phone calls. every day someone from somewhere is calling them, asking questions about your case, and they're like, well, how did you find out about this case? Well, I'm no guy sending you a packet. We're going to get it, you know? Oh, okay, you know? So, because like I say, usually when you file these cases, no one knows what's going on except for the attorney and you.
That's right.
Otherwise, no one knows what's happening. They don't know how they're dicking around with 12 motions and just doing nothing and just everything that they're not supposed to do.
And so do you write like a little press release to be able to send out to people a packet, or how much information are you going to give them?
Well, I'm giving them basically the complaint. Usually the complaint's got everything laid out in it, what the charter's all about. If they're using the code enforcement to steal people's property, put phony liens on it with their stupid fines because you didn't cut your grass. Then they started a $100 fine. Now it's up to, $5, $6, $10 grand or something. Now they may have to foreclose on your house to collect these fines. Nothing allows to be there at all.
Right.
It even says it in the Orlando Charter. The ordinances only apply to city-owned leased property. That's all it applies to.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense. It's like Walmart coming to you and claiming they're fining you because you're not stocking your soup cans pursuant to the Walmart stocking ban. You say, well, I don't work at Walmart. My house ain't a Walmart. Well, they don't care. They're just going to start levying fines, and they claim they're going to foreclose and take things from you, you know?
Yeah.
That's not what government is here to do. That's nothing but organized crime.
That's right. That's
and you approach it that way.
It's simply put.
Just learn to do what a prosecutor would do if you had, I don't know, some drug dealer down the road, I guess, selling crack to 6-year-olds, you know?
Yeah, tell them about it.
Go after them with the system and start, set up a complaint and indictments and go, try to go to the grand jury with it. Or usually that, you can get the local idiots to go along with that. If you got just some crack dealer down the street, they'll look into that, you know?
Yeah, well, that's
Which
right.
I find even more interesting because that's an unconstitutional action, too. Nothing ever allowed governments to make drugs illegal. All they did was turn it into a black market, so now it's worth, 50 times more than what it was before. I was reading this Ray Charles book that he wrote there in, I think, the early 60s, talking about his heroin addiction. Cost about $80 a month. Now it'd be $4 or $5 grand if you were doing the same thing Ray Charles was doing in the 50s.
Yeah.
And that's why the average heroin addict is stealing and selling off and hawking his cars and stealing, your TVs out of your house so he can fund his heroin addiction or his crack addiction. If government had turned into a black market, you'd be lucky if you could get the stuff away. But that's what they did, and once again, the American people went along with it and didn't do anything about it in the 70s, especially when Nixon started up the DEA, which was massively unconstitutional. And then all they do, I read an article where it said that it was written by some patriot guy that nothing but the drug war was a war on the Constitution, because that's exactly what they've done with it.
That's right. And
constitutional processes.
And
they can steal your house because you had a pot plant in the backyard. I think that makes some sense. That's how free people do it in a free country.
Which led to an opioid crisis, which led to a heroin crisis, which is a cartel crisis and a drug. All of this. I personally, all these people on the right love them Somali North, but you know what?
Who?
Oliver North.
Oh, okay.
They all love this guy. Well, thanks for standing up for Reagan, but Reagan put us in this mess. The Iran-Contra flying in drugs to pay for that war because Congress didn't want to pay for it, and now here we are with an opioid crisis. 30, 40 years later. I mean, government did this.
A lot of our drug addicts came from Vietnam, where they were getting their opium and heroin
Well, sure.
for nothing. Then they come to the States. Now it's costing them $2 grand a month to get what they're practically getting for free in Vietnam.
Well, sure. And then they were bringing pure coke in across the line, and they couldn't sell it in the slums, so they showed them how to make crack. And so, yeah. and look at the result. Look around. You know what happened. They were flying it into Mena, Arkansas, under old Bill Clinton for the East Coast, and flying it into Los Angeles for the West Coast. And
yeah, I read the Barry Sills book. He explained that pretty well.
Yeah, my dad went to high school with Barry Seal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know a band that he bought their PA for them.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Back in the 80s, late 80s, I think, or something.
Yeah. He used to hang out in a place called the Catery and listen to music, and that was where the Baton Rouge Madam was as well. So they were all tied in together, all cozy.
Well, key is you can see the massive organized crime syndicates. I just think like the Al Capones and Lucky Luciani just took over government positions instead of running their gambling in the back of the warehouse. They just do it through government functions with the lotteries and things,
Well,
and prostitution, all that stuff.
There you go. But that's why we had to get rid of the mob and the cartels, because the government they were eating in on their profits.
Well, they never really got rid of them. The mob's still there. It's World War II is where they kind of became buddies, because they wanted the mob to help them with the ports and stuff, and watch the ports. And I think the gov just kind of got ideas from them. Just started working with the same process as the mob was using.
That's
look how many people
that's
you have
right.
government going after them.
That's right.
You go down the list of government agents who just came out bored about a problem they saw in government. Next thing you know, they wind up in a park with two gunshots in the back of the head, and it's called a suicide.
Yep. So, look no further than, if you ever seen the HBO series The Wire. I mean, that gives you in great detail what happened. What happened.
There's a lot of really good books on that issue.
Sure.
Hey, even they get down like Charlotte Elizabeth's Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. That's a pretty good book that shows you why we're at now with these illiterate kids and just people who just, I don't know, can't seem to read or teach themselves anything. I was always good at teaching myself stuff. I always thought I was better at teaching myself. I didn't like piano lessons, but I got the Mel Bay book of how to play the piano one, and then when I finished that, I went to book 2, 3, 4, and worked my way up. And
well, that must mean
I learned how to do anything I did. Electronics, the hand guys I had, their first basic books were all electronics, showing you, filter caps and resistors and how to read the color coding to figure the ohms, your voltage and stuff. So I got into that because I was kind of a poor boy. And I wanted to take one of my synthesizers in the music shop. They wanted $150 to replace a $5 iProm chip. Well, I can do that if I know what chip is down, And so, okay, got a hold of a oscilloscope and started reading how to do it. And next thing you know, I was fixing TVs and computer motherboards. That was big money in the 90s. Just doing that for friends of mine who had $3,000 computer and it won't do nothing.
right.
So, this little diode there in the power supply where the power supply plugs into the motherboard just popped. I solder in a 10-cent piece off a Radio Shack, and they give me $300. I was like, this is all right, So, because back then it cost you $1,000 to get another motherboard for $486 something, whatever, back in the 90s, So it's a pretty big thing to find somebody who can just fix the power supply or just fix the motherboard problem and get it back up and running without spending thousands of dollars replacing the computer. TVs, VCRs, DVD players. I could fix that crap, And, so it's just, picking up little skills that you can make money on the side with.
I got to tell you that story surprised me, Steve, after the technical difficulties we had getting you on the line.
Well, I don't know what's up with the software there. You sent me the link, but it gave me the option to join. It wanted me to download all the Streamlabs crap just to have a phone call. It's like, what? And you said you never had that problem before, and I was having a hard time understanding why it wasn't giving me the option just to hit the join button. It was not highlighted, so I don't know.
Well, before we get too far off topic, we're approaching 2 hours. So if there's anything you want to talk about here at the end, let's get into that. Or you think's pertinent we need to talk about, or no, or
I don't know. I mean, this subject you can go on for days talking about this stuff.
Well, of course.
Things you can probably figure out. All I tell people is get access to the law and start reading it. That's the only thing I can tell you. Alphonse's got a thing on his little site there about where to get this stuff, and
right.
So if you're interested in learning the law, you need access to the actual American system law, no patron pathology garbage. This is the stuff that's been in play for at least 150 years. The common law rules were just codified, put into the statutes. So you just have to understand that, find the statutes that apply to the common law crimes they're doing to you.
Right, and we're supplying all that in our Telegram channels. So anybody that wants to know about it, come find us, of course. But so that was something I was going to ask you. I forgot. God dang it. Well, I'll let you continue. I don't know what I was going to say.
Well, like I said, that's the only thing I can think of at this stage, because in order to run these cases, you have to have some understanding of what a court case, what the anatomy of the case is all about, what needs to be done. Because I hear so many people go, they copied somebody's stuff, filed it, and now they've done something. The other side did something, they have no idea how to respond to it. And you need to understand all that, even how to make a record for an appeal. And now what an appeal is, how to write the appeal. The appeal is not a rehashing of your case issues. It's just showing how the lower court erred in ways that prevented you from having a fair outcome to your case. That's the whole ideology of an appeal. A lot of people want to go into appeals court with arguing the issues they had in their complaint. The appeals court's like, you can't do nothing with this,
I read it already.
Most people don't know what an appeal is, and you need to understand understand all this before you even worry about writing complaints.
Right.
Guys all the time, my complaints are say this, dude, you're a long ways from that, okay? You need to spend time understanding this before you worry about what you're going to write in your complaint. Getting a complaint's easy. If you understand the issues, you'll have no trouble writing a complaint. It's like, say you want to write, say you're into music, and I don't know, you got a biography you want to write about Rush. So if you're a Rush fan, you've been listening to them your whole life, you already know everything. You sit right down and start writing. But if I say, write me a thing on, I don't know, King Cole, Nat Cole or something, it's like, well, I don't know who that is. Well, okay. You're going to probably spend a year or two reading about him before you can even write any biography about him,
Sure. That's
so you need to kind of be in the situation where you understand what the issues are, so you know what you got to put in the complaint. That's where most people tend to have problems at.
Yeah.
They think they're going to copy someone else's complaint. Well, maybe not. I found that doesn't work. Even the legal manuals I read tell you not to do that.
Right.
If the cause of action completely fits, okay, maybe you can use it, but you should be in a situation where you should be able to write all the elements out and point to the evidence that supports it, things like that. That's what attachments are all about.
Yeah.
I get people write complaints, send it to me. He's like, where's the attachments? What? The attachments. You need to show, you need to prove what you're talking about in your complaint. You just can't write a complaint and say they're screwing you. You got to show how they're doing it and the evidence that supports it, like the papers they're sending in. So you got mail fraud, okay? You got to at least have something they say in the mail to prove that, So it's just funny how people do these things. They just think they're just going to do what they think sounds right to them, and then they're going to get it to work,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so you bring up a good point. So in American jurisprudence or some of these law documents, they'll have a
there's a litigation guys. There's paralegal manuals are awesome.
Right.
Those are usually really good because usually the paralegal is the one that does most of the research and writes most of the paperwork for these lawyers, and they just read it over and make changes if they want, and send it back to paralegals, and he changes or adds whatever they want. But the lawyers very rarely write their own motions or paperwork. They have their paralegals doing it for them.
Exactly.
So access to your state paralegal manuals, the federal ones. They usually explain everything, every rule, and everything has 20, 30 pages showing what you would do, what kind of things the lawyer would need, what attachments have to be attached to it, and any other pre-trial or pre-filing things you might have to do, like a replevin. Usually have to show that you did write the tow company or whoever, or the company saying, give me my stuff back, and after so long they don't give it back. Now you can file the replevin, but you have to put that letter in there as evidence that you did write them and ask them to give you your stuff back before you file the replevin. So, and then you should understand what all these writs are, mandamuses, writs of executions, motions for limine, motions for mortifying statements, motions for reconsiderations, motions to dismiss. They're like tools in a toolbox, It's because you have this big old toolbox with thousands of tools in it, and you want to replace a sink faucet. It doesn't mean you need to bring that whole toolbox. You probably just need a couple of wrenches, a few screwdrivers. You probably have no trouble replacing the sink, but as a mechanic or someone that's efficient with tools, you know what tools you need to get out of that toolbox to do the job.
Exactly.
You don't need to bring the whole 6-foot-tall, Craftsman toolbox with 50 drawers in it just to go fix the sink,
Yeah. And
that's kind of me the way I look at the court processes too. You need to understand what all the tools are for and when you might need them. I don't need an impact wrench or I don't need a jackhammer to replace a sink faucet, so I'm not going to bring that with me. But if there's some men around it or something crazy, then okay, you're going to go back and get the jackhammer now. You need it,
So definition of terms.
Working the court process is understanding all the motions, all the writs, what they're there for, if you need them, and if you do, know how to use them, and understand it. Because usually when you're in a court case, you have limited time, 10, 14, 20 days to do. So you ain't got 6 months to research what the next move is. You need to understand it as the case goes along so you can do the things timely and make the most of it. So like I say, people just amaze me sometimes how they think they're just going to go, ooh, look, I flew a flight simulator. I get the 747 to fly it now. Well, I doubt that. Just because you did a simulator once doesn't mean you can get a real airplane and fly it,
Right. And so and the jurisdictionary course goes a long way to educating you on a lot of that. And then, when you get to writing your complaint, it's you find your cause of action and you look up the elements needed to prove, and you see if you have enough to support that claim before you put it in your complaint. If you do, then you put it in the complaint, you address all those 4 elements, and then, or however many elements it is, and then you go on to the next cause of action. So writing a complaint, like you said, is fairly simple if you know the terms and you know a little bit of the procedures here.
Yeah, that's why sometimes I sort of find the jurisdictionary thing to be a little somewhat misleading, because a lot of people have had problems thinking they're going to take that and go file a civil rights suit, but you got to remember, Graves just wrote that for like the average little small businessman to do evictions and, small claims crap because the mechanic or the roofer didn't do something right. need to probably go into federal court and go after corrupt public servants, but it does give you the kindergarten ideology of what a court case is all about. That's what I got out of it, and I found it very helpful in my early days. But you're definitely going to need more of that. I remember Randy and I were talking there one day, and he's like, yeah, but after that you need the jurisprudence. Yeah, you definitely need to go there. But the jurisdictionary is a great thing just to give you a basic idea of what a court case is going to be about.
Yeah, and so that's what that's we want to try to fill in, and start developing education courses, that are, maybe 20 or 30 minutes long, that we can dial in on the things that Dr. Graves hasn't done in his jurisdictionary course. So when you come out of there, then you can go through our little school here. Hopefully we're working on, it's come eventually, but in the meantime, we'll leave a jurisdictionary link in the comments section for anybody that wants to get started immediately. I think the jurisdictionary course is probably one of the first things you do besides reading.
Well, it's like the DIS set. Well, as soon as the people get it, that's one of the first things I tell them to do is do the jurisdictionary course and then go read constitutional law and American jurisprudence. Now, I give having access to American jurisprudence probably 80% of my working knowledge is legal systems, having access to that, where I can sit at 2 o'clock in the morning on a laptop and read it and paste a copy out of it. I'm glad I got that.
Yeah.
Actually, a lawyer gave that to me. My wife competed with his wife in these fitness contests that are in the 90s, and so they became good friends. Next thing you know, Sarah's like, we're going to go see Renee and Carl. I was like, well, okay, who's Carl? Well, here's her husband. He's a lawyer. Oh, well, who's going to suck, But he was pretty cool. He was a retainer lawyer that did real good in law school. He got hired by Sprint Communication right out of law school as a retainer lawyer. But he heard what I was doing with code enforcement and camera control, and he thought that was cool. So he was the first one that gave me like my first court rule book, Florida Rules of Court. I was just getting the PDF stuff off the website, and then I saw him again, and he had these litigation guides, criminal, civil stuff, and all based in Florida. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know this stuff existed. And then he showed up with these DIS, had American jurisprudence. I didn't know what it was. I had to call my mentors. What's American jurisprudence? And I'm encyclopedia. Oh, okay. Okay, I don't know, what is that, and so they're like, it's the whole thing. I don't know, it's 4 discs, I don't know, so I loaded an old machine I had Windows Millennium on to see what it was. Required a dial-up activation and a key code. And that's where my friend Hiram got involved, and he was a computer whiz man to hack that out of it, which is why we sort of do it like a drug deal,
And,
I don't know if Westlaw would like that,
Of course not, but and for those that don't know, American jurisprudence is something everybody used to have on their mantle back in the probably 1800s, and it was a big thick book, and it basically told you on an 8th grade level how the law is supposed to work, and it gives you citations and how the judges should rule based on these citations. So you can read about municipalities, you can read about divorce law, you can read about family law, it has all topics of law that you can go in.
Yeah,
right.
Chickens, zoos, you name it, anything.
Right.
Any word you can think of, there's going to be a legal way of interpreting it, and it's usually there.
And that's right, and it'll give you all the case law and all the, explain to you in very simple paragraph what's going to go on and what should go on.
And usually, like when you see like a commercial with a lawyer and he's inside and all the books behind him look alike, that's usually going to be state jurisprudence. Every state has its own jurisprudence, so Florida has their jurisprudence, and then you have corpus juris secundum. I think Ballantyne's does like a little 40-volume set, a smaller set that like a lawyer or judge might have in his chambers. But usually when a judge says, "Oh, I need a 10-minute recess," that's usually what he does. He goes back to jurisprudence to see how he has to rule or
right.
get overturned,
right.
and then come back and go, "Okay, well, according to the law, I can only do this and do this, so I have to rule this way." That's how they're supposed to do it. Which I don't know if they do that anymore. I can't find any evidence they're reading any of this stuff.
Right, of course.
I've noticed over the years, but
and so
that's what it's all about. That's where it's at. I think is having access to that material, and like I said, the litigation guides for your state and federal. Paralegal manuals are nice, and take a paralegal course if you really want to get caught up fast. I've had dozens of people over the years do that, and they rave about what a great idea it was, and how much they learned. Now you have a certificate, you probably get a job at a law firm near you, where now you got access to these people, and you got access to all their databases and things. So I had a few infiltrators, a couple girls I knew that did that, and I'd be able to call them and say, "Hey, go look in your stuff and see if you can find this for me," and they come back, 20 pages of crap for me, I know a couple paralegal girls that I hire from time to time, just give them, $100 to look up some stuff for you, and they're happy as a pig in slop,
Right, exactly, and just so.
And know some court reporters. Go hang out in the courthouse, get to know some court reporters. I like pretty women; they tend to be more fun. It distracts a little bit in the court, a little bit when you got a And she's back there, and they're freaking out because no one brings a court reporter to traffic hearings, but I didn't want to bring one either, so I faked it, but it worked,
Yeah, and so for those that don't know now, American jurisprudence has grown to an encyclopedia of probably 20 plus books. So it's a very expensive collection to have. Most lawyers...
Actually, it's up to 170 volumes.
Okay, 170 volumes. I don't know how many are combined in the same books or whatnot, but I don't think it's 170 books. But they're very expensive, about 25, 30,000 usually, and lawyers usually subscribe to it through their Westlaw subscription and to have access to it. And so if you don't have access to that or don't have enough money to do any of that, you can go down to your local library. Our law library on any campus is going to have a set of jurisprudence you can go in and just read. And then the library sometimes will give you access to Westlaw, and you have access to all of that.
Yeah, they usually have a free terminal there that they've already been, I guess Westlaw does they do it for free for them, I think, educational thing. They get a write-off for the taxes probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you got a local college, what do they call it? Collegial college or something like that.
Yeah.
They usually do have a law section in it. I got 4 or 5 colleges around here that do that. Rollins, UCF, then there's Kaplan's Law University is right downtown. They got a 2-story law library in there.
Yeah.
Just tons of crap in there. That's where I found things like the Florida Administrative Code, things like that, where I was able to go to the copier and just start copying the pages to make my own copies.
I need to get one of those library lines, because I'm gonna tell you right now, Westlaw has gone up from $345 a month to now $425 a month.
Well, that's where this little disk set then kind of helps out there.
Yeah, you're right.
Pennies on the dollar, you get it loaded on your computer and start reading and see if you catch on. If you do, fine. And if you really feel the need, then go ahead and sign up for the $400 a month thing if you think you need the latest, greatest. But usually when you're just reading the 2D stuff, if you see anything, then go down and look and see if there's change, which nothing's really changed. The basic law has been the same for over 200 years, so it really can't change very much at all. Maybe some procedural processes possibly, but even then, that can't change a whole lot either for it to be, based in law and fairness and under the constitutional limitations. So
right.
It's not that bad. Then that's when you go look at 4D, 5D, wherever the hell they're at now. Just go down there and look at the latest, greatest, and maybe look at the corpus juris secundum. That's done by the Bar Association, and that's why it's kind of frowned on. It's more caters to the lawyers compared to American jurisprudence. Comes from all kinds of sources. It can be state cases, even some county cases, of course, federal appellate, Supreme Court. They kind of touch on everything compared to I know it's juris secundum, but even when I read the juris secundum on the same issues, state local taxation, it all says the exact same thing. Most time has all the same cases as what was in American jurisprudence.
That's right, and it's just it. You will learn so much just if you go read American jurisprudence. Find a topic you like. Just go through the topics and find one and read it, and you will be fascinated.
We'll just start with anything: affidavits, administrative law, of course, constitutional law is one of my favorite. Deeds and conveyances is nice. Understand what what legal conveyance of property is, whether it's land or if you're just selling a car even, There's a proper way to do that makes it legal, and therefore you can show legal ownership that you did obtain it under the processes of a sale. So know how to write up a little bill of sale and everything, and let's learn how to do this stuff. Your goal is to learn it the way the lawyer should be doing it. If you do that, then your odds of success definitely are better, but you are dealing with corruption and massive ignorance, so you just, like I say, make a record in the lower courts. You have a really good appealable record, and just know how to write an appeal and make the points clear to where the appellate court has no trouble understanding what your problems were with the trial court, And most times you're going to do, because as you go up, it's not as corrupt, The appellate courts are definitely better than the trial courts, and the Supreme Courts are supposed to be better than them. I've never been to the U.S. Supreme Court yet. Like I said, there's only a few people I've known that actually had to do some type of federal appellate situation. Otherwise, we can actually get it all done right there in the district federal court, because I think once we get the governor in on, you tell them to shut this down. If this gets out, they'll come at us with the guillotine. So do whatever you can to shut this down.
Right.
So they come here and sit on the table, pay you off to shut you up, and make you go away. You sign non-disclosure statement, so the victim can't go on CNN or be a Larry King or hold seminars on it,
Yeah.
That doesn't affect me, but to protect them, I just don't talk about them. I don't bring up their names, give any addresses or court case numbers or nothing. Just talk about what went on,
Yeah.
I can do that, I'm okay with that. I do have first-hand knowledge there,
That's it. Well, Steve, I think we did it backwards. I think we should have we put how to get started in the law at the end of this, but I'll just we'll make a note. But I think that's a great place to end it. And I'm going to give you the last word. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time with us, and thank you for dropping some knowledge on us. I think you gave us some really good ideas that we can implement, even if for people that don't want to file things. They certainly could go grand jury hunting for people, if they have time to run around town or whatnot. Like I said, employ your Vietnam vets that are mad as hell and see what happens. But I'm going to give you the last word, Steve.
Well, I guess I think I've said it all. Just get access to the law, start reading it, and see if you catch on to it, I guess. And as long as you're acting within the rules, if the rule says you can't do it, then you can do it. That's sort of how I look at it. So, and there's a lot of great other people out there. I like Dave Merlin a lot. I think he's excellent with the court rules, court procedures. Randy Kelson's great with the theory. There's Bobby Roman. I don't know what he does much anymore. But there's other people, but just beware of the mythology idiots, with all this capital letter garbage and French flag junk and zip code stuff. And stay away from that. That's all crap. There's no way. Government can't violate your rights with some underground policy that nobody knows about. That's just ridiculous and stupid to believe that the founding fathers set that up, because there's a lot of idiots out there too. The founding fathers screwed us from the beginning. So just stay away from that crap. We have a wonderful system of law. All you do is read it. That's all you need to do. And keep reading it and read it till you get it down. Do the research you need to do, look up cases, whatever. An attorney and general opinions are pretty good. Every state has those. And a lot of times you can find a lot of good stuff. That's how I learned the tax code, is reading a bunch of these attorney general opinions where the tax collector appraiser is asking the attorney general of the state, hey, do we do this or we do that? And then he comes back, well, the statute says this, the statute says that. And they'll have footnotes with all this case law. That's awesome stuff, explaining exactly how the process has to work pursuant to the Constitution. So just learn how to do legal research. Once again, there's a great video on that little disc set that's really nice, where the guy does a great job explaining how the law is cataloged, how it's set up in most law libraries, and how to find it, to where, spending 3 weeks looking for it. You go in there in an hour or two, you're gone. You load it on a jump drive and went